Hum. When Jian Wushuang started to cast his sword skills, a soft hum could be heard. Zhui Yunfeng and Lin Yi's eyes lit up as they were pleasantly surprised. Jian Wushuang then practiced the sword principle Bei Ming that Lin Yi had just taught him one style at a time. When they saw the first style, Zhui Yunfeng and Lin Yi had normal expressions. When they saw the second and third style, they started to frown. When he reached the fourth, fifth, and other subsequent styles, their frowns got deeper. When all 9 styles of the sword principle Bei Ming had been cast by Jian Wushuang, Zhui Yunfeng and Lin Yi no longer had anticipatory looks. Their faces were dark. "Father, Uncle Lin Yi, I have finished the drill." Jian Wushuang walked up to Zhui Yufeng and returned the sword to Lin Yi. Zhui Yunfeng looked sharply at Jian Wushuang before he said with a low voice, "Wushuang, I thought you said you understood the sword skills that Uncle Lin Yi just showed you?" "Yes, I did." Jian Wushuang nodded his head and replied, "Bullshit. You only showed the form of this sword skill. There was no essence or complexity at all. And you say you understood? As long as the person is not an idiot, anyone could show the form in these 9 styles. This is the talent you have for the sword doctrine." Zhui Yunfeng stared at Jian Wushuang with anger burning within his eyes. Jian Wushuang knitted his eyebrows. Lin Yi, who was standing to one side, spoke, "Brother Yunfeng, please don't blame your son. It might be my fault, as I should not have used sword principle Bei Ming to test this little one. Brother Lin Yi, this has nothing to do with you. You did what you could. Sword principle Bei Ming is a good way to test his talent in the sword doctrine. It's just that this little one is too disappointing," Zhui Yunfeng said. Lin Yi heard this and nodded his head. Indeed, he had been trying his best to get Jian Wushuang to learn about sword doctrine. Sword principle Bei Ming was the most suitable sword principle to test Jian Wushuang's talent. The results? Jian Wushuang was disappointing. When he saw how confident Jian Wushuang was and thought of how famous Jian Wushuang was, he thought Jian Wushuang would have been able to understand and showcase 20, 30, or even 40% of the essence. The results? It contained no essence when Jian Wushuang did the drill. It had the form but no substance. At this level, it did not match the expectations he had had for Jian Wushuang given how famous he was. Unrivaled in the sword doctrine, I heard that Taoist priest Xianxia was the one who gave him the name. A divine sword even fell from the sky on the day he was born. It seemed like the things people said about him were false and the Taoist priest Xianxia that everyone talked about was probably fake. His talent in the sword doctrine is not extraordinary. On the contrary, it is extremely ordinary. Lin Yi too was disappointed. He knew why Zhui Yunfeng had invited him over. He was also looking forward to teaching a genius of the sword doctrine to start his journey. In the end, it was not going to happen. "Brat, go and practice the sword skills again. If there still isn't any essence in your drill, I will break your legs," Zhui Yunfeng yelled. "I have already shown you the sword skills that I understood. Even if I do it again, it will be the same," Jian Wushuang said calmly. "Bastard!" Zhui Yunfeng was enraged. Lin Yi could not take it anymore and said, "Brother Yunfeng, your son might not have seen what the true sword skills really meant and cannot understand the true essence of the sword doctrine. There is no point forcing him to do this. How about this? We can just leave things as they are. We can find him some cultivators whose expertise is in sword doctrine to teach him the basics. I will come and visit again after a period of time." "Thank you very much, Brother Lin Yi," Zhui Yunfeng said. "No problem. With this, I shall take my leave." Lin Yi turned and left. "I will send you off, Brother Lin Yi." Zhui Yufeng stood up and said. Jian Wushuang remained in the middle of the training field. He looked at Lin Yi's back view and shook his head. "Looks like I overestimated him. As a peak chaotic realm expert from the absolute beginning divine world and one of top 30 in his understanding of the sword doctrine in the Anzhou prefecture, I thought that he would at least be a beginner in the sword doctrine realm. He should have seen the true essence of the 9 styles I just practiced. The results?" Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. In reality, it was not that there was no essence in the drill that Jian Wushuang had just done. On the contrary, he had made the extremely complicated, complex 9 styles into simple, ordinary sword swings. However, these ordinary 9 styles were very powerful. It was a pity that Zhuo Yufeng and Lin Yi could not see it. Even though Zhuo Yufeng was a half-step divine demon, his expertise was in using his fists to beat foes. His expertise was not in the sword doctrine, hence it was normal that he could not see through the 9 moves Jian Wushuang had just done. Lin Yi also could not fully understand his drills. Jian Wushuang now knew that Lin Yi had yet to step foot into the true sword doctrine realm. If he had been in the sword doctrine realm, he could definitely have seen from Jian Wushuang's drill how extraordinary the 9 styles were. Someone who has yet to step foot into the sword doctrine realm wants to instruct me, who has already reached initial success and is close to the profound realm in sword doctrine? Jian Wushuang felt odd. Zhuo Yunfeng returned to the training field soon after. You brat! You really dragged my reputation today. Zhou Yunfeng roared in anger before coming into view. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. He was not afraid at all. Zhuo Yunfeng appeared behind Jian Wushuang. Brat! Starting today, for the next 3 days you will stay within your room and will not leave. Stay inside and reflect upon your actions. Zhuo Yunfeng stared at Jian Wushuang. Even though he was scolding him with anger in his eyes, he was not delivering a harsh punishment. Zhuo Yunfeng was a person who would speak harshly to you but still love you more than ever. He looked like he was about to scold and hit Jian Wushuang. In reality, in the 8 years since Jian Wushuang had been born, he had never punished him before. Even though Zhuo Yufeng felt embarrassed and disappointed in Jian Wushuang, he knew that talent in sword doctrine was something one was born with. Hence, he merely told Jian Wushuang to go and reflect in his room. Jian Wushuang would spend most of his time in his room on exploring and studying different types of books written on jade bamboo strips. To him, this was no punishment. Yes, Jian Wushuang answered before going back to his room obediently. Even though Zhuo Yufeng was disappointed in Jian Wushuang and questioned Jian Wushuang's talent in the sword doctrine, he did not give up. He invited 4 experts who cultivated the sword doctrine to teach Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang cooperated obediently. Even Lin Yi, who was an expert in peak chaotic realm and ranked in the top 30 in his understanding of the sword doctrine within the Anzhou prefecture, could not see how skilled Jian Wushuang was. How could these ordinary experts in the chaotic realm see through it? They all thought that Jian Wushuang had only just started learning how to use a sword. Jian Wushuang would fool these experts and Zhuo Yunfeng by showing how much he improved. Every now and then, Jian Wushuang lived and regained his power in peace. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. Jian Wushuang was 10 years old. Every century, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion will recruit disciples. Wushuang, this is a perfect chance for you to become a powerful expert. I have already arranged for you to go and try out the recruitment test with a few other young disciples from the Lin family, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Misty Rain Sword Pavilion? Jian Wushuang raised his gaze. Over the 10 years since he had been reborn in the absolute beginning divine world, Jian Wushuang would read the news to know more about the domain he was living in. Jian Wushuang knew about the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. The Misty Rain Sword Pavilion had been created by an extremely powerful chaotic divine demon who excelled at the sword doctrine 100,000 years ago. Initially, it had been a small pavilion. When the creator broke through into a whole new power level, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion also became a top-tier clan that was located around the Anzhou prefecture. It was extremely well known even in the Wuxia barren region. To any cultivators who practiced the sword doctrine, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion would definitely be a good choice if they decided to go there. Father, I do not want to go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Jian Wushuang rejected his father's suggestion. All Jian Wushuang was thinking of now was to stay here and recover his power peacefully. When he finally got back to his prime, he could venture out and join a clan of choice. Even if he were to join a clan, it would not be Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. It was not that Jian Wushuang looked down on the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion on purpose. Once he got back his prime power, he would be a chaotic divine demon. Furthermore, he was a perfect chaotic life form. Hence his fighting power would easily be top tier amongst the chaotic divine demons. Misty Rain Sword Pavilion did not have the ability to guide him. He felt that the Wuxia barren region was too small a place for him. Jian Wushuang had already made plans for himself. However, when Zhuo Yunfeng heard what he said, he glared at Jian Wushuang and questioned, "Brat, what did you say?" I said, I am not going to join the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion, Jian Wushuang said. You? Shui Yunfeng was enraged. He pointed at Jian Wushuang and roared, Brat, do you know what the Misty Rain Pavilion is like? That place is a clan that focuses on the study of sword doctrine. There are numerous experts inside. The number of chaotic realm and divine demon experts that are there are like the number of strands of hair on a cow. There may even be an expert in a realm higher than a divine demon. This is a good learning opportunity for you, and now you're telling me that you will not go there. All of the geniuses in the sword doctrine in the Wuxia Baron region desire to enter the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion to cultivate. Now you have the chance to do so, you are telling me that you will not go. Other people might want to go there, but I am not interested, Jian Wushuang said directly. Bastard! Are you trying to make me mad? Rage burned within Zhuo Yunfeng's eyes. He quickly contained his anger before he said in a sincere and earnest tone, Wushuang, I told you before that this world is not as calm and peaceful as you think. On the contrary, the absolute beginning divine world is filled with danger. You are only 12 years old. You may not feel it now as you have been by your parents' side since the day you are born. One day we will leave you. At that point in time, only you will be able to help and protect yourself. You will need power to do that. Power is the key to survival in this world. Wherever you go, people will only respect the powerful. Just like your older sister and brother. They understand this. This is why your sister left 100 over years ago, when she was 14, and entered a clan to cultivate. She will return once in a while. The last time she returned around 20 years ago, she was already at the chaotic realm. You have not met your older sister before, so let us talk about your older brother, Shuopeng. Soon after you were born, he joined a clan to get stronger, so that he could protect himself in the future. Shui Yunfeng thought that Jian Wushuang was young, and did not understand how dangerous the world was. He was trying to educate Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang heard this and was speechless. Before Shui Yunfeng could finish speaking, Jian Wushuang interrupted and said, Father, I understand what you are saying. However, I really do not want to go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. I just want to stay at home quietly. Won't it be the same as those 4 uncles who teach me about the sword doctrine every day? Of course it is not the same. The 4 uncles are only in the chaotic realm. They are not proficient in their sword skills compared to the experts from the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Father, no matter what you say, I will not go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Jian Wushuang pursed his lips and said, What a defiant child! Shui Yunfeng was enraged. Luo Xinxin, who was sitting to one side, said, Husband, since Wushuang does not want to go to the Misty Rain Pavilion, let him be. After all, he is still so young. Why not let him join a clan after a few years when he is as old as Shuopeng was when he left? That is not a good idea. Wushuang is extremely talented. The more talented you are, the earlier you should start cultivating under the guidance of powerful experts. This will allow one to get even more powerful in the future. Shui Yunfeng said, Now that Wushuang is not willing to go, what can you do? Are you going to force Wushuang to do the recruitment test? Luo Xinxin glared at Zhuo Yunfeng. Jian Wushuang then muttered quietly, Even if you force me to go, I will not take the recruitment test seriously. I will not get accepted. Hearing this, Shui Yunfeng laughed bitterly and felt helpless. Shui Yunfeng gave up trying to get him to join the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion after multiple rejections from Jian Wushuang and with Luo Xinxin's protection. However, Shui Yunfeng did not give up on trying to get Jian Wushuang to join a clan to get the best teachers. He felt that Jian Wushuang would only get the best training if he entered a clan. No matter which clan he introduced to Jian Wushuang, he would be rejected firmly. Shui Yunfeng felt extremely helpless. He scolded Jian Wushuang many times on how he had never made any effort to improve. Jian Wushuang ignored all of the scoldings. Time passed quickly and soon Jian Wushuang was 12 and he was still living in the governor's palace within Incineration Moon City. Jian Wushuang was 12 years and 6 months old. It was wintertime and snow was falling from the sky like the feathers of a bird. The entire Incineration Moon City was covered in a lining of white. Within the governor's palace, Jian Wushuang sat under a tree, holding a jade bamboo strip in his hands. A sword skill had been recorded on the jade bamboo strip. This sword skill was not difficult, but it was also not easy. Jian Wushuang had been studying this sword skill for around 3 months. Jian Wushuang finally put down the jade bamboo strip. After 3 months, I finally understand this sword skill. It is a pity that this sword skill is too low level. Even though it contains spacetime rules of order, it is far too little. It does not help me in my understanding of the spacetime rules of order. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. Over the past few years, Jian Wushuang had stopped studying the events and myths of the absolute beginning divine world. He had been studying secret skills and honing his sword skills. Zhuo Yunfeng was in the half-step divine demon realm. He was considered a powerful expert within the Anzhou prefecture. After all, there were not many divine demons within the Anzhou prefecture. On top of that, Zhuo Yunfeng was the governor of a city and had good relations with the Lin family. Their foundation was solid as there were several types of secret skills and sword skills within the governor's palace. During the past few years, Jian Wushuang had already browsed and studied all of the secret skills and martial arts skills. The sword skill that Jian Wushuang had just put down was one of the sword skills he was interested in. 12 years. I still need some time before I can get back to my prime. As for my understanding of the sword doctrine and rules of order, I have improved. However, this speed is far too slow. If I have sword skills of an even higher level for me to study or meditate on, I will improve faster, Jian Wushuang muttered. The quiet governor's palace suddenly became noisy. Many footsteps could be heard from the front yard. Many of the maids and servants were rushing out. Xiao man. Jian Wushuang stopped one of the maids who was rushing out. Prince. The maid stopped and greeted Jian Wushuang. What is happening? Where are all of you rushing? Jian Wushuang asked. Prince. We received a message from the master that an important guest is here. Master is already on his way. He told us to prepare as well, the maid replied. An important guest? Who is it? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. It seems like the head of the Lin family is here, the maid replied. Head of the Lin family? Jian Wushuang nodded his head and understood why there was a ruckus. Anzhou Prefecture was just one of the many prefectures within the Wuxia Baron region. Even though it was only a single prefecture, it was gigantic. The size was about the same as the Green Fire World. Within the Anzhou Prefecture, the most powerful was the governor of the prefecture, who was also a top-tier divine demon. Below the governor, there would be 6 top-tier families within the Anzhou Prefecture. Each of these families was like an overlord within the Anzhou Prefecture. Each family would have around 2 or 3 divine demons. The most powerful 2 families now had 4. The Lin family was one of the 6 top-tier families. As the head of the Lin family, he was the main pillar of support and was definitely an important figure. He was much more powerful than a small city governor like Zhou Yunfeng. The reason why the head of the Lin family was there at the governor's palace of the Incineration Moon City was because of Jian Wushuang's father, Zhuo Yunfeng. They were extremely good friends. Back when the head of the Lin family had still been in the chaotic realm, he had ventured out together with Zhuo Yunfeng. They were brothers who had experienced life and death situations together. Hence, Zhuo Yunfeng was on very good terms with the Lin family. It is my father's 1600th birthday tomorrow. The head of the Lin family must be here to celebrate the birthday with him. Jian Wushuang could guess the reason why the head of the Lin family was here. The Lin family and Zhuo Yunfeng were brothers who went through thick and thin together. Every time something good occurred within Zhuo Yunfeng's home, the head of the Lin family would send over a generous gift. For example, when Jian Wushuang was born, the head of the Lin family had sent a very generous gift. The head of the Lin family had been free around this time and came down to attend Zhuo Yunfeng's birthday celebration personally. Birthday. Back in the eternal chaotic world, everyone lives for a very long time and hence people tend to forget their birthday. In the absolute beginning divine world, a cultivator will celebrate his birthday once every 100 years. Jian Wushuang smiled to himself. As the head of the Lin family was there, his parents and the entire governor's palace treated this seriously. He did not care. He whipped out another jade bamboo strip and started reading. A figure in green clothes walked in from outside the garden. Jian Wushuang looked up at the figure. It was a teenage boy who was around 14 or 15 years old. He wore expensive clothes and looked naive. When the teenage boy stepped into the garden, he instantly spotted Jian Wushuang, who was sitting under a tree. "Hi, little one. Where is Prince Jian Wushuang?" The teenage boy in green clothes asked directly. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. Back in the eternal chaotic world, he had lived for nearly 100,000 years and people had called him an old monster. However, the teenage boy was around 14 years old. Even Zhuo Yunfeng, who had lived for 1,600 years, was far younger than Jian Wushuang. And this teenage boy was calling him little one? Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and replied without looking at the teenage boy, "Are you looking for something?" "Of course. I heard that he was born because of swords. When he was born, a divine sword came down from the heavens. I am also an expert of the sword doctrine and am unconvinced of how talented he is. Since I have finally received a chance to come to Incineration Moon City, I want to duel with him," the teenage boy in green clothes said. "Duel?" Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. "Little one, if I am not wrong, you are Jian Wushuang." The teenage boy stared at Jian Wushuang and said, "Yes, I am." Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said, "Haha, that is great. Jian Wushuang, I am Lin Yan. I hereby challenge you. Come, fight me," Lin Yan said as he took out a sword. Jian Wushuang was not interested in this battle even though Lin Yan was hyped up about it. "Sorry, I reject your challenge." Jian Wushuang shook his head and said, "Reject? Haha, you won't be able to reject my challenge. Watch out." Lin Yan smiled in an eerie way. Lin Yan attacked. A sword light lit up as the snow seemed to stop falling. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He would not feel threatened by Lin Yan no matter what he did. However, he was surprised when he saw the sword skill that Lin Yan used. He could see that the sword skill was of a high level, much higher than the sword skill he had been studying previously. It was a pity that such an incredible skill had such a poor effect when Lin Yan used it. Jian Wushuang sat on a stone bench. He simply moved to the side and dodged the sword easily. "Oh? Did you dodge it?" Again. Lin Yan's eyes lit up in excitement. Lin Yan started to cast another attack. "Lin Yan, what are you doing?" A deep voice was heard as Lin Yan stopped what he was doing. Jian Wushuang looked over at the entrance of the garden. He saw a fierce middle-aged man in silver clothes walking in alongside Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin. This middle-aged man in silver clothes was the head of the Lin family, Lin Taifeng. "Father!" Lin Yan became obedient when he saw his father. "What is happening?" Lin Taifeng placed his hands behind his back and looked over. Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were also wondering what was going on. "Nothing much. I heard that Uncle Zhuo's son is Jian Wushuang, and that he excels in the sword doctrine. I am excited to have a duel with him," Lin Yan said. "Is that the case?" Lin Taifeng raised his eyebrows. "Haha, nephew is only 2 years older than Wushuang and they are peers. It would be normal for them to have a duel." Zhuo Yunfeng smiled. "So how did the duel go?" Lin Taifeng asked. "We had only just started our duel when you came in." Lin Yan then turned to Jian Wushuang and said, "Jian Wushuang, now both of our fathers are here. Fight me head-on. I want to see if you are really talented." Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yunfeng and the others smiled at this and they did not seem like they intended to step in. Zhuo Yunfeng was hoping that Lin Yan would fight Jian Wushuang to teach him a lesson. If you were weak, you would be bullied and there would be nothing you could do about it. This could serve as a wake-up call so that Jian Wushuang would no longer reject his offers of going to a clan to cultivate. Jian Wushuang saw everyone's expressions and smiled. "Okay, I will have a duel with you. However, it will be too boring if it is a normal duel. Let us add a bet." "You want to make a bet?" "Sure. What do you want to stake?" Lin Yan was excited. "Simple, I want the sword skill that you just cast," Jian Wushuang said directly. "My sword skill? That sword skill is sword principle snow congelation. Only certain core disciples within the Lin family can learn it. No outsiders are allowed to learn this," Lin Yan frowned and said. Lin Taifeng smiled. Brother Yunfeng is a brother to me. Wushuang is not an outsider. He can learn the sword principle snow congelation. Hearing this, Lin Yan nodded his head. All right, my father has agreed to let you learn it. If you lose, I do not need sword skills from you. How about this? You will stay with me for a year and become my sword boy. A sword boy was a servant dedicated to another to refine their sword skills. Lin Yan was the son of the head of the Lin family. He had his own personal sword boys at home. However, how could they compare to Jian Wushuang? Lin Yan got extremely excited thinking of the idea that the famous Jian Wushuang would become his sword boy. Ling Taifeng knitted his eyebrows tightly and said, Lin Yan, don't be disrespectful. He was thinking that if the son of his brother became his own son's sword boy, things would get complicated. Okay, Jian Wushuang said. This. Ling Taifeng was shocked. Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin also raised their eyebrows. They had never thought that Jian Wushuang would agree. Didn't that mean that Jian Wushuang would become a sword boy if he lost? Where does this little one get his confidence from? Lin Yan is incredibly talented in the sword doctrine, and he is 2 years older than Wushuang. Zhuo Yunfeng knitted his eyebrows and said, Husband. Luo Xinqin looked over. Don't panic. Let's watch. Zhuo Yunfeng signaled Luo Xinqin. Lin Taifeng also noticed the change of mood in Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin. He said, Brother Yunfeng, Lin Yan is just messing around. Please do not take it seriously. If I am not wrong, seeing how confident Wushuang is, I am afraid that the sword principle snow congelation will become his. Lin Taifeng was speaking the truth. He had heard of Jian Wushuang before. He knew that Jian Wushuang was extremely talented in the sword doctrine. Even though Lin Yan was 2 years older than Jian Wushuang, he had no confidence in his own son. Hearing this, Zhuo Yunfeng smiled bitterly. Brother Lin might not know of this, but actually, Wushuang is not as talented as the outside world has claimed. Wushuang is talented at sword doctrine, but he is definitely not as powerful as Lin Yan. Oh! Lin Taifeng was stunned. Brother Lin Yi knows about this as well. You can ask him, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Lin Yi. Lin Taifeng waved his hand and Lin Yi walked up to him. Clan Master City Governor Zhuo is speaking the truth. He asked to guide the little one on the path of the sword doctrine 4 years ago. I agreed and came here to test how talented he is in the sword doctrine. He is not very talented. During the test, he also seemed very confident. Lin Yi said. Really? Jian Wushuang's name was given to him by Taoist priest Xianxia himself. There shouldn't have been any mistake. It doesn't matter anymore. Let's watch them, Lin Taifeng said. Under the gaze of the Zhuo Yunfeng couple, Lin Taifeng and the rest, Jian Wushuang and Lin Yan walked to the center of the garden. When they reached the center of the garden, Lin Yan held his sword up and told Jian Wushuang, Draw your sword. Sword. Jian Wushuang smiled. Everyone was confused when they saw him walk over to the tree at the side and pick up a tree branch about 30 centimeters long. This is my sword. Jian Wushuang waved at Lin Yan and said, Jian Wushuang, are you trying to humiliate me? Lin Yan exploded with rage. The spectators knitted their eyebrows in confusion. They thought that Jian Wushuang was being arrogant. Even if Jian Wushuang had a terrifying talent in the sword doctrine, he had been tested for it and he was facing a child who was 2 years older than him. How could he beat him with just a branch? Wushuang is usually a thoughtful kid. Why is he doing all these nonsensical things when it comes to swordplay? Does he really want to become a sword boy? Luo Xinqin said. Humph. Who knows? I realized he has been under my protection all along and has never tasted failure before. If he loses to Lin Yan today, I will definitely send him over to the Lin family to become a sword boy, thought Zhuo Yunfeng as he clenched his fists tightly. Everyone thought that Jian Wushuang was being too arrogant and had underestimated Lin Yan. The only people who would not think so were those who knew who he really was. Jian Wushuang was an old monster who had lived for around 100,000 years. He would be making a joke of himself if he were to use the Blood Mountain sword in a duel with a kid around 14 years old. However, Jian Wushuang felt that he was bullying Lin Yan as by even using a branch. If he wanted to humiliate the Lin family, he could beat Lin Yan even without a branch. Humph! Since you want to become a sword boy so badly, I will fulfill your wishes. However, since I am 2 years older than you, I will be in a higher realm compared to you. To be fair, I will not use my divine power at all. We will only compete in terms of our sword skills, Lin Yan said through clenched teeth. That is no need for that. Just use all the power you have. That way you will be convinced about your eventual defeat. You are in the early stage of transformed God realm. I have also reached this stage. Jian Wushuang smiled. As he said this, a wave of divine power surged from his body. Ha! Lin Yan was shocked. From the aura that was radiating from Jian Wushuang, he could sense that Jian Wushuang was as powerful as him. Early stage of transformed God realm? He has reached this stage and he is only 12. Lin Taifeng and Lin Yi looked over in surprise. Even Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were stunned. The type of cultivation done in the eternal chaotic world was different too in the absolute beginning divine world. Hence the stages of cultivation were also named differently. Within the absolute beginning divine world, a cultivator would start as a practice god. In this realm there were a total of 13 steps. Each step was a huge breakthrough. With how abundant spiritual energy was in the absolute beginning divine world, any genius could finish the 13 steps quickly. After practice God was transformed God. A transformed God was equal to a universe God back in the eternal chaotic world. A universe God would turn all of the spiritual energy he accumulated into pure divine power. This was the same in the transformed God realm. The only difference was that one had to pass the universe God trial to become a universe God, while there wasn't a trial to become a transformed God. What came after the transformed God realm was the pure sun realm, which was also the equivalent of a real God. After the pure sun realm was the chaotic realm, then the divine demon realm. The divine demon realm was also referred to as a chaotic divine demon. Under normal circumstances, a cultivator would become a transformed God by the time he turned 18. People like Lin Yan would be considered geniuses as he was a transformed God at the young age of 12. But now, Jian Wushuang had also shown that he was in the early stage transformed God realm. Based on the aura, Jian Wushuang's divine power seemed purer that of Lin Yan. Husband, do you know when Wushuang entered the transformed God realm? Luo Xinqin asked. Nope. This little one never reveals too much about himself. Even though I did take note of his cultivation base. Based on my judgment, I thought he was in the 10th or 11th step of the practice God realm. I never thought that he had become a transformed God. Zhuo Yunfeng shook his head and said, he was pleasantly surprised. Yes, he was pleasantly surprised. Even though he did not know how good Jian Wushuang's sword skills were, at least his cultivation base was good. Humph, your cultivation base is not weak. It is a pity that we are competing with our sword skills. Lin Yan stared at Jian Wushuang and said, come, attack me as you like. Jian Wushuang smiled casually. Lin Yan attacked without hesitation. He dashed forward and swung the sword he held in his hand. A cold sword light was seen as the snow froze in the air. He was still using sword principle snow congelation. He did not hold back anymore after finding out that Jian Wushuang was not a weakling. Jian Wushuang also moved when Lin Yan attacked. Hum! A soft hum was heard. The cold sword light was nowhere to be seen. The surrounding snow continued to fall to the ground. The entire garden was completely silent. Lin Yan's eyes widened in surprise. He stood there as a branch was pushed up against his chest. You lost. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Silence. The entire garden was silent. Everyone was speechless. Even Lin Taifeng and the adults who stood around him were quiet. Lin Yi, your understanding of the sword doctrine is the deepest among us. Did you see what Jian Wushuang did? Lin Taifeng asked with a deep voice. Lin Yi stuttered. He shook his head and before he finally said, no, I did not see what Jian Wushuang did. What? Lin Taifeng and Zhuo Yunfeng were shocked again. Neither of them were experts in the sword doctrine. It was understandable that they could not see what Jian Wushuang had done. On the other hand, Lin Yi specialized in the sword doctrine, and his understanding of the sword doctrine should have been in the top 30 within the Anzhou prefecture. Even he did not know how Jian Wushuang attacked. Are you kidding? Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin looked at each other in disbelief. Impossible! Another roar was heard. Lin Yan took 2 steps back before he attacked again. This time, he used the strongest sword skill he had mastered. The sword light traveled very quickly and mercilessly as it targeted Jian Wushuang. The sword light seemed as though it was about to tear Jian Wushuang into 2. Watch closely. Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yufeng, and the other adults used their soul powers to track Jian Wushuang's movement. When Lin Yan attacked, Jian Wushuang was ready. He took a step forward. Before Lin Yan could land his blow, the branch hit Lin Yan's wrist at lightning speed. A loud slap could be heard as Lin Yan felt a stinging pain in his wrist. His attack crumbled instantly as he dropped his sword to the ground. You still want to continue the duel? Jian Wushuang smiled at Lin Yan. Lin Yan was completely taken aback. Wow, the little one can see the flaw in Lin Yan's sword skills easily. Furthermore, he didn't even use any sword skills. He only used the most simple sword moves, and he still defeated Lin Yan easily. A flash of excitement was seen in Lin Tiefeng's eyes as he looked over at Lin Yi. Lin Yi, can you easily defeat Lin Yan using a branch, without the use of sword skills? Lin Yi was taken aback. He answered honestly, if I can use sword skills, I will be able to defeat Lin Yan easily. If I don't use sword skills, I can still defeat Lin Yan, but I won't be able to do it as easily and smoothly as this little one did. Furthermore, there is no way I could detect a flaw in Lin Yan's sword skills, make a decision and strike so accurately. This also means that his understanding of the sword doctrine is deeper than yours? Lin Taifeng squinted his eyes and asked. Lin Yi fell silent. As much as he did not want to admit it, it did seem like Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine surpassed his. Humph, and you said so confidently that this little one had no talent in the sword doctrine? His talent is not as terrifying as the people outside claim it to be? And you said you personally tested his talent in the sword doctrine. Lin Taifeng scolded. This? Lin Yi knitted his eyebrows. He did not reply. Instead, he walked up to Jian Wushuang. At that moment, the battle between Lin Yan and Jian Wushuang had stopped. Lin Yan was not stupid. After losing to Jian Wushuang twice, he knew that Jian Wushuang's sword skills were far superior to his. He would not attack a third time. That would make him seem like a sore loser. Little one. Lin Yi came up to Jian Wushuang and asked in a deep voice. 4 years ago when I tested your talent in the sword doctrine, did you take my test seriously? Or did you hide your true power? Lin Yi thought this was what had actually happened. He felt that it would be unbelievable if Jian Wushuang had a greater understanding of the sword doctrine than him at this young age. Jian Wushuang had to be insanely talented in the sword doctrine for that to be true. But with this talent, how was it possible that Lin Yi did not see any essence when Jian Wushuang practiced the sword principle Bei Ming 4 years ago? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang shook his head slowly and said, No, I did the drill seriously. Then why was there no essence in your drill? Is it because I made it too complicated and you could not understand initially? Lin Yi asked curiously. I understood it and did the drill properly. It was you who did not understand my drill, Jian Wushuang said. I did not understand you drill? Lin Yi was stunned before he asked, What do you mean? Why don't I show it to you? We shall have a duel with sword skills right here, right now. I will use the sword principle Bei Ming that I learned 4 years ago. As for Uncle Lin Yi, you can use whatever sword skills you like, Jian Wushuang said indifferently and confidently. You want to have a duel with me? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows before he turned back and looked at Lin Taifeng. Lin Taifeng nodded his head in approval. Okay, little one, are you going to use a branch in this duel with me? Lin Yi looked at Jian Wushuang as he drew his sword. For me, anything can become a sword. The sword skills that I use when I hold a branch are not much weaker than when I use the same skill when I am holding an actual sword. Jian Wushuang smiled. What an arrogant one. I want to see if you can really beat me with your branch. Lin Yi smiled. Attack me. Jian Wushuang held his branch with one hand and placed the other behind his back. He stood there and waited calmly. I am starting. Lin Yi dashed forward and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. He swung his sword in an eerie manner as it headed for Jian Wushuang's throat. It was so fast that the spectators could only see a blurred shadow of the sword. Husband. Luo Xinqin looked worried. She knew the strike was powerful and she was afraid that Jian Wushuang would get injured. Don't worry. Brother Lin Yi knows his limits. He has suppressed his divine power and is only using the power at the level of the early stage transformed god. Jian Wushuang should be able to deflect this attack given his understanding of the sword doctrine, Zhui Yunfeng said, trying to calm his wife down. Zhui Yunfeng severely underestimated Jian Wushuang. When Lin Yi attacked, Jian Wushuang moved as well. He smiled lightly. A soft hum that came from a sword could be heard. Jian Wushuang swung the branch he held in his hands. This swing was extremely ordinary and seemed as though it did not contain any essence at all. From the sword momentum, it did seem like this sword skill was one of the styles from sword principle Bei Ming. This ordinary swing collided with the sword light from Lin Yi almost instantly. When the two blades struck each other, the long sword in Lin Yi's hands turned slightly from the force from the branch. What? Lin Yi was shocked. Lin Taifeng, Zhui Yunfeng, and the others were in disbelief. Even though Lin Yi had suppressed his own divine power to the level that Jian Wushuang was at, Lin Yi's strike should have been more powerful given that he was using an actual blade and not a tree branch. The results? Lin Yi was overpowered by Jian Wushuang. The branch then went around the long sword before stopping on Lin Yi's chest. Whoosh! Lin Yi took a few steps back after the branch collided with him before he steadied himself. After he regained his balance, he was stunned and speechless. I lost. Lin Taifeng, Zhui Yunfeng, and the other spectators were in disbelief. An expert in the peak chaotic realm, whose understanding of the sword doctrine was in the top 30 within the whole of Anzhou Prefecture, had lost to a kid who was only 12 years old and who used a branch in a duel. He had lost after one move. He was completely suppressed and had no way to fight back. Lin Yi's thoughts were disrupted. He knew that the sword skill that Jian Wushuang had just cast was indeed sword principle Bei Ming. However, the sword skill that Jian Wushuang had just used contained no essence at all. It was an ordinary, dull strike. And it was this very ordinary and dull strike that had defeated him. How did this happen? Lin Yi was confused. Just then, Lin Tiefeng's face turned serious as he said, That little one, that sword skill was not ordinary. On the contrary, it was extremely exquisite and skilled. Even though it seems ordinary, it was extremely complex. It's just that Jian Wushuang cast it in a clean and smooth way. Under normal circumstances, only those have reached a peak in their understanding of this sword principle Bei Ming could cast this sword skill in such a simple manner. Reach the peak? But Wushuang only saw Brother Lin Yi demonstrate this sword skill once 4 years ago. Back then, it also seemed that it was ordinary and simple when Wushuang did the drill. He watched it once and he managed to fully understand this sword skill. Zhui Yunfeng was surprised. It is highly likely. Ling Taifeng nodded his head. Lin Yi was completely speechless. It seemed like Jian Wushuang had understood the sword principle Bei Ming 4 years ago and had done the drill perfectly. Because Wushuang's understanding of the sword skill was far above Lin Yi's, Lin Yi thought that Jian Wushuang had not understood the essence of this sword skill. In reality, Wushuang's talent was far greater than he could ever imagine. Brother Zhua, if I am not wrong, your son has stepped into the sword doctrine realm and is at least at the initial success stage, Lin Taifeng said. Initial success in the sword doctrine realm? Zhui Yunfeng widened his eyes. Husband, Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine is so much deeper as compared to Lin Yi. He is only in the initial success stage of the sword doctrine realm. Luo Xinqin frowned as she asked, What do you think? The initial success in the sword doctrine realm that Brother Lin mentioned is the true sword doctrine realm. It is completely different from the normal sword doctrine everyone is talking about. With Brother Lin Yi's understanding of the sword doctrine, and being in the top 30 within the Anzhou Prefecture, he has yet to meet the criteria to break through into the sword doctrine realm. Zhui Yunfeng looked over at Zhui Xinqin and said in a serious tone, Even Lin Yi has yet to meet the criteria necessary to enter the sword doctrine realm? Luo Xinxin was stunned. She was only in the chaotic realm. She was unlike Shui Yunfeng and Lin Taifeng, who understood more about the division of power. Lin Yi, who she thought had a very good understanding of the sword doctrine, had yet to even meet the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. It is not easy to meet the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. There are countless experts in the sword doctrine within the Anzhou prefecture. However, the number of these experts who are in the sword doctrine realm is limited, and Lin Yi is not one of them. As for initial success in the sword doctrine realm, it requires an even higher level of understanding of the sword doctrine compared to just meeting the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. As far as I know, there is only one person within the entire Anzhou prefecture who has reached this level. That man was the previous head of the Zhuge family, Zhuge Yun. He has decided to shut himself off from the world. Zhuge Yun? Isn't he a chaotic divine demon? Does this mean that Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine is comparable to a chaotic divine demon's? Luo Xinxin was surprised. Yes, and most chaotic divine demons who use the sword might not even have as deep of an understanding of the sword doctrine as Jian Wushuang. Lin Taifeng nodded his head heavily. Hearing this, Shui Yunfeng and Luo Xinxin sucked in a cold breath. Jian Wushuang had stayed quietly beside them for 12 years. They only found out today that their son's understanding of the sword doctrine was at such a level. Unrivaled in the sword doctrine. Looks like the name that Taoist priest Xianxia gave Jian Wushuang was correct. Jian Wushuang being at initial success in the sword doctrine realm at the age of 12 is really incredible. I have never heard of anyone else who has achieved this, Lin Taifeng exclaimed. This brat. We cannot let his talent in the sword doctrine go to waste. We should send him into those powerful clans where he can develop properly. Shui Yunfeng clenched his fists tightly and thought to himself. Jian Wushuang walked over with Lin Yi. Lin Yi was looking at Jian Wushuang as though he was a freak. Lin Yan, do not forget our bet. Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Yan and said. Lin Yan was already speechless. He had never thought that Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine could be even deeper than that of Lin Yi. Was he really just a 12-year-old child? Lin Yan trembled slightly as he looked at his dad when he heard what Jian Wushuang said. Haha, don't worry, little one. The people of the Lin family keep their words. If it is okay with you, you can even come with me back to the Lin clan. You can choose and read a wide variety of secret skills and martial arts skills within our library. Lin Tifeng laughed heartily. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Brother Lin, you cannot do that. There are numerous secret skills within your family's library. Those were obtained through the blood and sweat of your ancestors. How can my son just go in and do what he likes? It is already an honor for him to get the sword principle snow congelation from you, Shui Yunfeng said. Brother Zhua, we are brothers. Furthermore, Wushuang is incredibly talented. If he is brought up well, he will be very successful in the future. I fear that the library in my house will be too small for my dear nephew, Lai Taifeng said. He was speaking the truth. Lin Taifeng was a chaotic divine demon and the head of the Lin family. He was like an overlord, but after seeing how talented Jian Wushuang was, even he was shocked and in disbelief. He knew that if he told the outside world what he had seen today, everyone would be shocked as well. Countless clans would fight over this kid who was so incredibly talented in the sword doctrine. The Lin family was only powerful within the prefecture. It was impossible for them to guide Jian Wushuang far. All he could do was try his best to help his dear nephew. Brother Lin, I thank you for your goodwill. However, Wushuang is a very stubborn boy. I tried my best to send him into a clan so that he could get the best teachers. He always rejects my offer. Now that you want him to go with you back to the Lin mansion, Shui Yunfeng said. Okay, I will go to the Lin mansion. Jian Wushuang interrupted Shui Yunfeng and said. What? Shui Yunfeng was stunned as he looked at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. This brat. He had never wanted to leave the incineration moon city. What had happened to him today? Had he changed his mind? Haha, that is great. Lin Taifeng was elated. The Lin family would be honored if a kid as talented as Jian Wushuang would stay at their mansion for even a short period of time. How about this? We will celebrate your father's birthday tomorrow, and we will leave the day after, Lin Taifeng said. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The reason Jian Wushuang had agreed to go to the Lin mansion was not only because he could get access to the secret skills within their library, but he could also come back and visit anytime he wanted to. He would not be able to do so if he joined a clan, as there were many restrictions. Just like his older brother Zhuopeng and his eldest sister, who he had never met before, they would only come back once in a while. However, he could leave the Lin mansion whenever he wanted to. Furthermore, the Lin mansion was closely located to the incineration moon city. Seeing that Jian Wushuang agreed so readily, Zhui Yunfeng was also happy. He was happy that Jian Wushuang was leaving home. Now that he was going to the Lin mansion, even though the Lin mansion was not as well known as some other clans, it was a big family and there was a system in place to train and develop disciples. It also had a lot of resources necessary for cultivation. Zhui Yunfeng believed that Jian Wushuang would not be treated unfairly given his close relations with Lin Tifeng. Jian Wushuang would be able to train and cultivate in a better environment. Everyone started preparing for Zhui Yunfeng's birthday celebration. The birthday celebration went smoothly and everyone was extremely happy. After the birthday celebration, Jian Wushuang left with Lin Taifeng for the Lin mansion. Lin mansion. The Lin family was one of the 6 top-tier families and had an extremely solid foundation. The Lin mansion occupied thousands of square feet and it looked very majestic. Jian Wushuang entered the Lin mansion under the guidance of Lin Taifeng. Lin Taifeng gave the order that Jian Wushuang could go enter the secret skill pavilion as he liked and could study any martial arts skills or secret skills he wanted. Furthermore, they were planning to give Jian Wushuang 3 times the amount of resources that their core disciple had. A core disciple in the transformed god realm would get 1 god transformation elixir, but Jian Wushuang would get 3. There was a ruckus within the Lin mansion when everyone found out the treatment Jian Wushuang was getting. Jian Wushuang lived in a well-designed house which only an important guest could stay in. Jian Wushuang sat on a stone bench at the center of the garden with a jade bamboo strip in his hands. The contents of the jade bamboo strip was a copy of one of the secret skills that Jian Wushuang had seen in the secret skill pavilion. It was Sword Principle Snow Congelation. This sword skill can make even snow freeze in the air. There is a trace of space-time rules of order within this sword skill. Jian Wushuang smiled. The space-time rules of order was extremely complex and complicated. If one mastered this sword skill and had a good understanding of the space-time rules of order, everything in this world would freeze in place when this sword skill was used. This was an incredible sword skill. Even though this sword skill is good, I do not have the ability to learn it yet. However, I can learn many things just by studying it and applying it to the time-space sword principle. Jian Wushuang started to focus on the content on the jade bamboo strip. Before long, Brother Wushuang. A loud voice was heard as 2 figures stepped into the garden. Jian Wushuang looked up. One of the 2 was Lin Yan. After Jian Wushuang had defeated Lin Yan a few days ago by using purely his sword skills, Lin Yan had no longer been arrogant and had stopped trying to compete with Jian Wushuang. Lin Yan was a straightforward man. After getting close to Jian Wushuang, he had started to treat Jian Wushuang as a brother. There was a young girl standing behind Lin Yan. She was around 12 or 13 years old. She looked pale and yellow and seemed delicate. Without a doubt, she was pretty. Prince Yan, is something up? Jian Wushuang asked, his eyes fixed on the jade bamboo strip in his hands. Haha. Today is the day that the Lin mansion gives out elixirs. I know that you will drown yourself in studying the sword doctrine. Hence I have brought over the 3 god transformation elixir for you. Lien Yan opened his palm and Jian Wushuang saw 3 light purple elixirs. God transformation elixir? Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. To any expert in the transformed god realm, this elixir would be extremely useful as it would make it easier for them to accumulate divine power. However, Jian Wushuang had reincarnated. He was already at the level of a chaotic divine demon. All he had to do was accumulate divine power. The god transformation elixir was not very useful for him. After all, he was a perfect chaotic life form. The amount of spiritual influence of heaven and earth he required for each stage of his cultivation was far too much. Furthermore, the speed at which he absorbed the spiritual influence of heaven and earth was insanely fast. He could absorb equal amounts of divine power within the three-god transformation elixir within one day. This elixir was almost useless for him. You wouldn't be so nice unless you have something to ask me. So what do you want me to do for you? Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Yan and said, Haha, you saw through my plan. Lin Yan gave an awkward smile. He pulled over the young girl and said, Brother Wushuang, this is my cousin. She is about the same age as you and practices the sword doctrine. She is facing difficulty in one of the sword skills she is practicing. Hence, you want me to guide her? Jian Wushuang looked over and sighed. Yes. Lin Yan nodded his head before he said to Lin Qingqing, Cousin, tell Brother Wushuang about the problems you face. He can definitely solve them for you. Lin Qingqing knitted her eyebrows. She did not say anything and looked at Jian Wushuang with suspicion. Jian Wushuang was around the same age as her. How could one blame her for suspecting whether or not Jian Wushuang had the ability to guide her in her sword skills? Furthermore, even the experts in the Pure Sun realm and Chaotic realm within the Lin Mansion could not solve her problem. Jian Wushuang noticed that Lin Qingqing was questioning his ability. Jian Wushuang did not mind and said, Which sword skill does she have problems with? Hazy Sword Principle, Lin Yan said. Do you have a copy of the Hazy Sword Principle? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Lin Yan brought out a jade bamboo strip. Jian Wushuang took the jade bamboo strip and started reading it. Lin Yan and Lin Qingqing stood to the side and waited. Brother Yan, he is the person you talked about that can solve the problem I face in my sword skills? Lin Qingqing asked softly. Yes, it's him. Do not underestimate him. Even though he is young, his understanding of the sword doctrine is incredible. If anyone in the Lin Mansion can solve this problem, it will be him. Lin Yan smiled. Really? Lin Qingqing was still suspicious. Lin Yan smiled and did not continue to explain himself. The people of the Lin Mansion knew who Jian Wushuang was, but only Lin Taifeng, Lin Yi and Lin Yan knew what he was capable of. Lin Yan knew that there shouldn't be anyone in the Anzhou prefecture who could compete with Jian Wushuang in their understanding of the sword doctrine, much less someone from the Lin Mansion. If even Jian Wushuang could not solve the problem Lin Qingqing had, there shouldn't be anyone in the Lin Mansion who could solve it. After half an hour, Jian Wushuang finally put down the jade bamboo strip. Show me your sword skills, Jian Wushuang said. Go, Qingqing, Lin Yan said. Even though Lin Qingqing was suspicious of Jian Wushuang, she still listened to Lin Yan and started doing a drill of the Hazy Sword Principle. Jian Wushuang smiled as he saw each style of the sword skill being performed by Lin Qingqing. Before long, Lin Qingqing finished the drill. She seemed more pale than ever and even started coughing slightly. Brother Wushuang, do you know what is wrong? Lin Yan asked. Yes, it is simple. She is not fit to cultivate this sword skill, Jian Wushuang said up front. Uncle Lin Yi told me this before. Looks like I have to give up on this sword skill and learn other sword skills. Lin Qingqing looked at Jian Wushuang and shook her head. It was obvious that she was trembling. She had been practicing the Hazy Sword Principle for 2 years and had put in hard work to reach where she was today. Of course, she would be greatly affected when she had to give it up. Jian Wushuang then smiled again. Actually, there is a way for you to not give up on this sword skill. Huh? Lin Qingqing looked over at Jian Wushuang, surprised. Brother Wushuang, stop keeping us in suspense. What is the solution? Lin Yan asked. The reason why the Hazy Sword Principle is not suitable for her is because 3 of the styles in the sword skills are too overbearing and deadly, which causes waves of violent aura. Your cousin is a delicate young girl. She has yet to toughen up and hone herself in the outside world. After she grows up and ventures out, she will be able to control the violent aura when she becomes a more resolute lady. Then she will be able to use this sword skill without any repercussions. Of course, she cannot do that now. All she needs to do is to stop practicing those 3 styles within the sword skill. Then she will be all right. That is it. Lin Yan understood Jian Wushuang's explanation. Lin Qingqing was still suspicious of Jian Wushuang. Brother Wushuang, which 3 styles contain the violent auras? Lin Yan then asked. The 4th, 9th, and 13th style, Jian Wushuang said. Qingqing, follow what Brother Wushuang said. Do a drill of the hazy sword principle but leave out those 3 styles, Lin Yan said. Ling Qingqing followed her cousin's instructions. But this time, she skipped the 3 styles Jian Wushuang talked about. Soon, she finished the drill and stood there, shocked. She realized she was not hurt after leaving out those 3 styles. Were my problems really caused by those 3 styles? Ling Qingqing stared at Jian Wushuang and asked. Jian Wushuang then smiled and said, Now the problem is solved. Haha. Thanks a lot, Brother Wushuang. Lin Yan was overjoyed. Thank you, older bro. Lin Qingqing also thanked Jian Wushuang, but she did not finish her sentence. She wanted to call Jian Wushuang her older brother. But then she realized Jian Wushuang was younger than her. No problem. Just call him older brother. If he doesn't mind, even I will call him older brother. Lin Yan laughed. Jian Wushuang smiled and waved at both of them. The 2 of them left. Jian Wushuang dove right back into studying the sword skill he was holding. News of this incident soon spread among the higher-ups in the Lin mansion. The experts in the sword doctrine were stunned. Many of them had known of the problem Lin Qingqing had, but none of them had had any way to solve it. All they could do was to tell her to change to another sword skill. However, a 12-year-old kid had solved it? After they asked around, they were even more shocked when they knew that the 12-year-old kid was the famous Jian Wushuang. Many of these experts went to find Jian Wushuang for a duel. The results were even more shocking. Even though Jian Wushuang was young, his understanding of the sword doctrine was beyond their wildest expectations. Li Yi had the deepest understanding of the sword doctrine, and he was nowhere near Jian Wushuang's level. After these experts who cultivated the sword doctrine found out how incredible Jian Wushuang was, many of them put down their pride and asked Jian Wushuang for guidance. Jian Wushuang did not reject them. He was a guest in the Lin mansion. The Lin mansion treated him well by allowing him to browse any secret skills or martial art skills that could be found within their library. These skills were very beneficial for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang guiding these experts in the sword doctrine was his way of repaying the Lin family. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang had been staying in the Lin mansion for 3 months, in the house that Jian Wushuang was staying in. Just as Lin Yan was about to enter the garden, 2 people walked out from inside. They were 2 experts in the chaotic realm. They were chatting as they walked. I had never thought that there could be an expert in the Lin mansion who would have such an incredible understanding of the sword doctrine. What is more amazing is that he is a child aged 12. Little friend Wushuang is really incredible. His talent in the sword doctrine is unmatched. Taoist priest Xianxia is amazing. With this level of talent, he should be given 10 times the amount of resources of a core disciple. The 2 of them chatted casually. Lin Yan could hear what they were saying clearly. Both of you, Lin Yan smiled. Prince Yan. The 2 experts in the chaotic realm looked over and greeted. Did both of you seek Brother Wushuang's guidance in the sword doctrine? Lin Yan asked. Yes, both of us have learnt a lot from him, one of the experts said. Yes, a lot. The other man nodded his head in approval. Brother Wushuang is a guest here at the Lin mansion. He also needs to focus on his own cultivation. You can come and ask him once in a while, but please don't come and bother him consistently, Lin Yan said. Of course. We have already benefited greatly from a single session. How could we be greedy and want more? The 2 experts in the chaotic realm said. That's right. Carry on. Lin Yan waved his hands and the 2 experts in the chaotic realm left the place. Lin Yan then entered the garden that Jian Wushuang lived in. After he reached the garden, he saw Lin Yi. Jian Wushuang stood in the middle of the garden with his eyes closed. He held an ordinary sword in his hands. Uncle Lin Yi, what is Brother Wushuang doing? Lin Yi asked softly. Looks like he is going to practice with a sword. Practice? Lin Yan raised his eyebrows. He realized that even though Jian Wushuang had been there for 3 months, he had only studied sword skills. He had never practiced at all. This was the first time Lin Yan had seen Jian Wushuang use a sword for practice. Lin Yan stood to the side quietly, as he did not want to disturb Jian Wushuang. Spring was about to come, and this was the last snow this winter. Snowflakes filled the entire sky as they fell to the ground slowly. The floor of the entire garden was already covered with snow. Jian Wushuang held a sword with one hand and stood at the center of the garden. He opened his eyes all of a sudden. Killing intent could be seen clearly in his eyes. The sword in his hand moved. He thrusted the sword out like a beam of light. It seemed like an ordinary thrust. However, ripples could be seen in the surrounding space. It was as though the space bent because it was so affected by the sword essence. In reality, it was not space which bent. It was space-time. Before the thrust landed, Jian Wushuang swung his blade out in a horizontal swing. This horizontal swing was the sword skill that Jian Wushuang was trying to cast. A sword light could be seen at the corner of his eyes. It was beautiful and stunning. People could lose themselves within it. Even though the sword light seemed extremely small, it filled the entire garden, including the space right in front of Jian Wushuang. As the sword light dimmed, peace returned to the garden. Jian Wushuang sheathed his sword. What sword skill was that? I am completely lost. Lin Yan knitted his eyebrows. He could not understand the essence of the sword skill that Jian Wushuang had just done. However, he could feel how terrifying the move was. Uncle Lin Yi, do you understand what just happened? Lin Yan looked over at Lin Yi and asked. I could not understand it completely, but I realized something, Lin Yi said. What did you realize? Lin Yan asked. Have you not realized that the amount of snowflakes around our dear friend Wushuang has become more dense? Lin Yi said. Oh yes, that's true. What happened? Lin Yi asked curiously. If I am not wrong, Wushuang sliced all of the snowflakes falling from the sky in half. This created the illusion that the snowflakes on the ground became denser. The sword light is incredibly powerful, and the snowflake is extremely frail. It will melt easily. However, he managed to slice all of the snowflakes in half without melting them. How incredible is his control of the sword essence and power of that sword skill. He is that incredible? Lin Yan widened his eyes in shock. That sword swing, that swing. Lin Yi clenched his fists and closed his eyes as the scene where the snowflakes were sliced in half played repeatedly in his mind. Uncle Lin Yi, what happened to you? Lin Yan asked. Do not disturb him, Jian Wushuang said as he walked over. It seems like he has managed to learn and understand something new. Learn something new? Lin Yan nodded his head and stood there quietly, waiting for his uncle. After a few minutes, Lin Yi opened his eyes. He looked extremely happy. He took a deep breath and bowed to Jian Wushuang before turning and leaving. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang smiled and said, Looks like the Lin family is finally going to have an expert who meets the criteria for the sword doctrine realm. Lin Yan also realized that Lin Yi was going to have a breakthrough in his understanding of the sword doctrine. That was why Lin Yi had left without saying anything. He was going into isolation to train. Brother Wushuang, what is the sword skill that you just cast? It looks foreign to me, Lin Yan said. That sword skill is called Snow Cleave. I created this style after fully understanding and mastering sword principle Snow Congelation, Jian Wushuang said. He had been studying the sword principle Snow Congelation for 3 months. He had managed to master this sword skill completely. He had created Snow Cleave after gathering the essence from sword principle Snow Congelation and combining it with the power of spacetime. I finally created my own style in the spacetime sword principle after I did the same for the Reincarnation sword principle. Jian Wushuang smiled. His understanding of the spacetime rules of order and Reincarnation rules of order was profound. He had a better understanding of Reincarnation rules of order due to the miniature Reincarnation, which allowed him to create a style in the Reincarnation sword principle. Samsara. Jian Wushuang had never been able to perfectly combine his understanding of the spacetime rules of order and the sword doctrine to create a new sword skill. He had finally managed to do so today by creating Snow Cleave. In terms of sword principle, I have the sword principle Shen Luo that is capable of attacking and defending. In close combat fights, that would be sufficient. However, the sword principle Shen Luo is too ordinary. Although it could eliminate my weaknesses, I won't have much of an advantage either. Therefore, I have to create the most appropriate ultimate move for killing. The Spacetime Sword Principle and Reincarnation Sword Principle could perfectly infuse the rules of order. I can follow through with it to the very end. Jian Wushuang had plans for his own sword principles. Long ago, when he was still in the eternal chaotic world, he had thought of taking the paths of Time-Space Sword Principle and Reincarnation Sword Principle. However, he had barely gotten in touch with the Spacetime Doctrine and Reincarnation Doctrine and had not reached the level of the rules of order. Although he had come out with several sword principles, they weren't infused with the rules of order. And now, Wu Yu had left those sword principles aside completely. Instead, he had combined rules of order with the sword principles perfectly in his creation. When he had been in Eternal Chaotic World, he had made a breakthrough in Reincarnation Sword Principle and come out with Samsara. Now that he was in Absolute Beginning Divine World, the birth of Snowcleave gave him a foundation in Spacetime Sword Principle. Regardless if it was the Spacetime Sword Principle or the Reincarnation Sword Principle, I have created the first move. Moving ahead, it would be constant improvements together with the ordinary sword principle Shen Luo. Only then could I really move towards perfection in my sword principle. Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself. Moving ahead, I have to work harder. Jian Wushuang continued his silent sword cultivation in the Lin Mansion. Time passed quickly. Soon, Jian Wushuang was 16. He had been in the Lin Mansion for over 3 years. In his room, Jian Wushuang sat on his bed with his legs crossed. The 16-year-old Jian Wushuang no longer had the childlike features of his youth. Instead, he looked cooler and handsome. As for his appearance, he had intentionally made himself look similar to how he had been in his previous life. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes abruptly. At that very moment, a dense and powerful divine power emanated from his body. Middle stage pure sun realm. Just as expected, without a limitation on the realm, all I need is to accumulate divine power. This has made cultivation a lot quicker. Jian Wushuang mumbled with a faint smile. Pure Sun Realm was the equivalent of the real God stage in the eternal chaotic world. As for middle stage Pure Sun Realm, it was the same as the second stage of Real God, the eternal real God. He wasn't too far away from the chaotic realm. Judging from this speed, in another 4 years or when I'm 20, I should be able to reach the chaotic realm. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The chaotic realm still wasn't his previous pinnacle. Now that he had reincarnated as a perfect chaotic lifeform, once he returned to the chaotic realm, his fighting power would be substantially stronger. Furthermore, once he reached the chaotic realm, he could also start cultivating some secret skills he knew in the eternal chaotic world. He would also be qualified to start with the few secret skills that his master, Xianxia, had left in his mind. At that time, he would likely stand at the top of the Anzhou prefecture. No hurry. One step at a time. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. All of a sudden, he was alarmed. The extended soul power had detected people walking towards the room he was in. Jian Wushuang walked out of the room instantly. Brother Wushuang. From afar, Jian Wushuang could see Lin Yan approaching. Lin Qingqing was following him. Jian Wushuang could see a tinge of bloodlust gleaming in the eyes of Lin Yan. What happened? Why are you looking so furious? Asked Jian Wushuang. In the 3 years that he had spent in Lin Mansion, Lin Yan had often paid him visits. After several encounters, they had become quite close. Although Jian Wushuang still didn't see Lin Yan as a brother he could go through life and death with, he did see him as a friend. He was also the first friend he had made in Absolute Beginning Divine World since he reincarnated. Brother Wushuang, I would like to ask for your help. Lin Yan said solemnly. Help? Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. Speak. What happened? It's the Zhuge family. They are here with their number 1 figure of the younger generation, Zhuge Hong. This guy constantly provoked the disciples of our Lin Mansion and even announced he wants to challenge every single one of the younger generation in Lin Mansion. Lin Yan was fuming as he spoke. Jian Wushuang understood instantly. A conflict within the younger generation. Zhuge family and Lin family were both among the 6 elite families in Anzhou Prefecture. Moreover, they had always been sworn enemies. Conflicts were common throughout the year. This wasn't limited to just the higher management. Conflicts and fights between younger generation disciples were equally common. However, going to the Lin mansion directly to taunt was probably a little overboard. "What's the matter? Isn't there anyone in the younger generation that is a match for Zhuge Hong?" asked Jian Wushuang. Lin Yan's expression changed a little and he answered, "Brother Wushuang, I'll be frank here. Zhuge Hong isn't ordinary. Not only is he exceptionally talented, he also entered the Dongzhou sect at a young age as a core disciple. His master is a very powerful and frightening chaotic divine demon that isn't any weaker than the commandery governor of Anzhou Prefecture. Under the tutelage of his master and grooming of Dongzhou sect, Zhuge Hong's strength isn't something that the disciples of our Lin mansion can match. Even though I wouldn't like to admit it, I have to say I'm not just a notch weaker than him. Since you can't defeat him, just bear with him. Or perhaps you could ask the higher management of your Lin mansion to teach that Zhuge Hong a lesson," Jian Wushuang said nonchalantly. In his previous lifetime, he had lived for close to 100,000 years in the eternal chaotic world. He had seen far too many conflicts between families and even sects and were numb to them. Since the younger generation disciples weren't a match, they could only bear with them. Finding help externally wouldn't be a wise decision. Jian Wushuang had no intention of being implicated in the long conflicts between the two families. This was because he wouldn't be helping Lin mansion. Rather, he would be doing harm. If they couldn't win, enduring was their only option. When they made improvements, they could find their pride. That was what big families should do. If Zhuge Hong was just taunting, we could just put up with him. However, he went over us over and over again. More importantly, he even humiliated Qingqing in the past. Lin Yan gnashed his teeth as the bloodlust surrounding him intensified. "Oh!" Jian Wushuang was taken aback. He took a glance at Lin Qingqing and saw she was looking extremely bitter. "Brother Wushuang, Qingqing was only able to continue practicing the hazy sword principle because of your guidance. Subsequently, Qingqing followed your instructions to have more trials in the outside world. However, Qingqing suffered a blow in a recent trial. She was severely injured and a Lin mansion's disciple that accompanied her even died. At that time, the Lin mansion's disciple wanted to escape and look for help for Qingqing. Qingqing was severely injured then, and that was the only option. By the time Qingqing came back with help, that disciple was already dead. This left Qingqing extremely remorseful and she blamed herself for the incident. We had a hard time helping Qingqing get back on her feet. However, Zhuge Hong brought up the incident today again. He even humiliated Qingqing directly and accused her of abandoning her comrade. In the end, Qingqing cried. Lin Yan said coldly. Jian Wushuang took a glance at Lin Qingqing. His impression of her had always been of a gentle and adorable girl. However, he could now see signs of crying. From her eyes, he could tell she was still carrying strong guilt and self-hatred. It isn't just that. For Qingqing, those who know about the incident have never told others about it. There weren't any other people around then either. Logically speaking, no one should know about it. Yet Zhuge Hong knew. Coupled with the fact that I heard Zhuge Hong happened to be in the vicinity then, if I'm right, they were probably aware Qingqing was in danger then. Furthermore, there's a high chance that this was the doing of Zhuge Hong. As he spoke, killing intent oozed from Lin Yan. Brother Wushuang, although Qingqing isn't my biological sister, she's even closer to me than a real one. I only blame myself for being incapable and unable to teach Zhuge Hong a lesson for Qingqing. I could only come to seek help from you. Jian Wushuang was also moved. Regardless of the taunts thrown out in a quarrel between the younger generation, they could be explained as a fit of anger. However, exposing one's wound in the public and piling on insults, and even resorting to unscrupulous means would be a little much, Jian Wushuang remarked. All right, I'll go take a look with you. Great. He's at the drill ground in our Lin mansion. Let's hurry there. Lin Yan perked up with joy. Soon, with Lin Yan taking the lead, Jian Wushuang arrived at the drill ground. The drill ground was congested with a large number of younger generation disciples. Also, many Lin mansion experts had gathered there. In front of these experts, An unruly young man in a black robe was standing there. He had a mocking smile across his face while looking at the crowd from Lin Mansion disdainfully. Although there were numerous Lin Mansion disciples and experts, they didn't amount to anything in his eyes. Jian Wushuang could tell that the young man in the black robe was Zhuge Hong. However, he wasn't paying attention to Zhuge Hong. Instead, he was staring at an old man in a gray robe behind Zhuge Hong. The old man in the gray robe was squinting his eyes and had hidden his aura perfectly. Nonetheless, Jian Wushuang could tell with a single glance that this was a true chaotic divine demon. Chaotic divine demon would definitely be experts at the top of the pyramid in Anzhou Prefecture. The divine demon expert is following Zhuge Hong personally, and yet he has showed no intention of stopping Zhuge Hong. Rather, he appears to be doing so on purpose. Jian Wushuang smiled gently. Lin Yan, if I got it right, Zhuge Hong's purpose isn't simply taunting the younger generation disciples. He is most likely trying to sound you guys out. Sound us out? What do you mean? Lin Yan was puzzled. Lin family has always been in conflict with the Zhuge family. The hatred between both sides runs deep and both parties will want to annihilate the other completely. The only shame is that none of the parties have the absolute strength needed to crush the other. But now Zhuge family is probably thinking of taking action against your Lin family. Therefore, they sent Zhuge Hong over. He looks like he was just provoking you guys, but in fact, he's trying to sound out the strength of your Lin family, explained Jian Wushuang. Even so, how is he going to do that? Lin Yan was still confused. He definitely couldn't do so alone. However, did you notice the old man in gray robe behind him? That gray-robed old man is a chaotic divine demon. It is just that he is great at hiding his aura and did not attract the attention of others. Zhuge Hong is acting so arrogantly now. If the younger generation disciples can't stop him, the experts will then be needed. Once an expert shows himself, the gray-robed old man will make a move instantly. His ultimate objective is to force the chaotic divine demon in the Lin Mansion to step in, Jian Wushuang said. Divine demon? That old man is a chaotic divine demon? Lin Yan was astounded. Damn it! My father suffered serious injuries when he fought another chaotic divine demon more than a decade ago. He hasn't recovered fully from it yet. As for the other chaotic divine demon of our Lin family, he has been roaming the outside world for a long time and has yet to return. If the Zhuge family take actions now, that must be it. Zhuge family definitely knows about your family's predicament. His trip this time was definitely to force your father into stepping out so they could assess how much strength your father still possesses. Or perhaps they are trying to find out if the chaotic divine demon that is out has returned. Once they get an answer, the Zhuge family will definitely make a move, said Jian Wushuang. He had lived close to 100,000 years in his previous lifetime and had seen countless situations. He could see through Zhuge family's plot with a single glance. This won't do. I have to inform my father immediately, Lin Yan said. That's not necessary. Your father had probably seen through the motives of the Zhuge family. Jian Wushuang chuckled. Through his soul power, he could sense that Lin Taifeng and the three half-step divine demons of Lin family had hidden together. It seems like the family head of Lin family has no intention of revealing his current fighting powers. Instead, he probably intends for the three half-step divine demons to intercept the other party. However, with just three half-step divine demons, they will likely not be able to stop that gray-robed old man. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Divine demon and half-step divine demon might seem really close, but the difference was enormous. Moreover, Jian Wushuang could tell that the gray-robed old man wasn't an ordinary chaotic divine demon. He was definitely powerful. It wouldn't have been realistic to expect just three half-step divine demons to hold up against the gray-robed old man. In the end, Lin Taifeng would likely have to step in to knock him back. If that were the case, the other party would be able to tell how much strength Lin Taifeng had left. Brother Wushuang, what should we do? Asked Lin Yan. Simple. I just have to step in and dispatch Zhuge Hong. As long as a younger generation disciple can defeat Zhuge Hong directly, that gray-robed old man won't have an excuse to make a move. Their attempt this time won't achieve their objectives. However, if this is the case, I will probably be implicated in the conflicts of the two families, said Jian Wushuang. Brother Wushuang, this? Lin Yan furrowed his brows. It's all right. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and chuckled. Your father and mine are brothers of life and death. If Lin family is in danger, my father will definitely not sit back and do nothing. He would definitely step in and I too would be implicated. Since the outcome is the same, there's nothing to worry about. Let's go. All right. Lin Yan nodded his head heavily before walking forward with Jian Wushuang. When the crowd saw Lin Yan, the smile on Zhuge Hong deepened. Isn't this the young master of Lin Mansion? So the representative of the younger generation in Lin Mansion is finally willing to show himself. Zhuge Hong mocked. Zhuge Hong, you were just relying on your identity as the core disciple of Dongzhou sect. What's there to be cocky about? Haha, I just like to. So, are you not happy about it? If you aren't, we can just have a fight here. It isn't that I'm belittling you. However, when it comes to trash like you, I wouldn't even be bothered if 3 to 5 of you guys teamed up. Zhuge Hong sneered. Lin Yan was infuriated, but there was nothing he could do. At this moment, Jian Wushuang finally spoke. To deal with someone like you, there's no need for Lin Yan to do it himself. Huh? It was then that Zhuge Hong noticed Jian Wushuang. Judging from his appearance, Jian Wushuang would at most be 15 or 16 years old. At this age, Zhuge Hong wasn't concerned about him. Lad, who are you? Zhuge Hong asked solemnly. I'm just a sword boy under Lin Yan, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Sword boy? Lin Yan and the crowd from the Lin Mansion were astounded. Lin Yan especially, back in Incineration Moon City, he had had the intention to take Jian Wushuang on as his sword boy. However, after a quick fight, Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle had far exceeded his imagination. This had dispelled his thoughts of doing so. Over this period, Jian Wushuang had remained in the Lin Mansion and was absolutely a distinguished guest. Many experts in Lin Mansion who specialized in sword principle held utmost respect for him. In fact, they even sought guidance from him often. How could he be a sword boy? However, since Jian Wushuang had said so, no one could say otherwise. A meager sword boy, and yet you dare to be rude before me? Scram! Zhuge Hong berated. Hehe. Young Master Lin Yan is of exceptional status. He isn't someone that an average Joe can challenge at will. If you want to challenge him, you should at least be able to defeat me. If you aren't even a match for me, it'd be better for you to scram first. Jian Wushuang laughed. That's right. If you don't even dare to fight with a sword boy, you aren't qualified to challenge young Master Yan. Zhuge Hong, I think it would be better if you just run along back home. The majority of the crowd from Lin Mansion knew about Jian Wushuang's identity and started chiming in. Zhuge Hong was furious and his expression turned icy cold. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and said, All right, let me teach you a lesson first before crushing your young master. Upon hearing Zhuge Hong, Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. Although Zhuge Hong was rather talented, he was too young. To put it bluntly, he lacked experience. Young Master Yan, how would you like me to teach him a lesson? Jian Wushuang whispered. That goes without saying. Humiliate him utterly. The more ruthless, the better. Lin Yan gritted his teeth. All right, I'll just crush his confidence and make him doubt himself forever, Jian Wushuang answered. Lin Yan was astonished but still nodded. All right, but be careful. Although Zhuge Hong has a crude personality, he is strong. Moreover, there are rumors that he's exceptionally close to the Pure Sun Realm. Close to the Pure Sun Realm? Jian Wushuang chuckled. Nope. He's already at the Pure Sun Realm. What? When he said the words, it wasn't just Lin Yan who was shocked. Everyone in Lin Mansion was astounded as well. As for Zhuge Hong, he glanced coldly at Jian Wushuang and commented, Your eyes are pretty sharp. When he finished his words, Zhuge Hong no longer attempted to conceal his power. His divine power and aura rose to the level of a Pure Sun Realm rapidly. Pure Sun Realm. He's really at the Pure Sun Realm. Oh gosh, isn't Zhuge Hong just 20 years old? A 20-year-old Pure Sun Realm. The crowd at Lin Mansion was astounded. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth was too dense in the absolute beginning divine world. Cultivators that were born in this environment would naturally have greater talents. Even so, a 20-year-old pure sun realm was an exceptionally rare talent. He would be considered a top-class talent in the entire Wuxia Baron region, let alone the Anzhou prefecture. It was not surprising that Dongzhou sect would place such a high emphasis on Zhuge Hong. Is pure sun realm that incredible? Jian Wushuang's indifferent laughter sounded. Immediately after, a divine power that was no weaker than Zhuge Hong's started rising around Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was undoubtedly at the pure sun realm as well. What? How could this be possible? This time, even Lin Yan and many others who knew Jian Wushuang were stupefied. Jian Wushuang was just 16 years old. A 16-year-old at pure sun realm. Brother Wushuang, how did you cultivate so quickly? 3 years ago, when I first saw you in Incineration Moon City, I was the same realm as you. Lin Yan mumbled. What he didn't know was that in order to not draw the attention of people, Jian Wushuang had only revealed the strength of early-stage pure sun realm. However, he had already reached the middle-stage pure sun realm. As a perfect chaotic lifeform, Jian Wushuang didn't require the divine power of a pure sun realm to deal with a small lad like Zhuge Hong. Even with ordinary transformed god's cultivation base, he could defeat him easily. However, he would appear to be too insane then. Facing an early-stage pure sun realm with early-stage pure sun realm would be the best. TSK. I did not expect the Lin Mansion to have a cultivation talent. However, even if you could match me in cultivation base, it wouldn't matter. One's cultivation base wouldn't be a complete representation of one's fighting powers. Zhuge Hong snorted. As he flipped his palm, a faint purple saber appeared in his hand. The blade was extremely thin and had an eerily cold vibe. Lad, show your weapon, shouted Zhuge Hong. Weapon? Jian Wushuang tittered. The next instant, he lifted his right hand and stuck out his index finger. Against you, all I need is a finger. Brazen. Zhuge Hong was infuriated. Even the crowd of Lin Mansion was staring at Jian Wushuang, feeling awestruck. Although he was comparable in cultivation base, Zhuge Hong came from Dongzhou sect and had a powerful master. The various secret skills and means he possessed weren't what the Lin Mansion disciples could compare with. This was especially so for his compelling saber skills. It was said that he had a grasp of the saber principle. Yet, Jian Wushuang hadn't retrieved his sword and wished to fight with just a finger? Was that possible? Many Lin Mansion doubted I. However, those who truly knew Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle could understand. It was especially so for the powerful experts in Lin Mansion who specialized in sword principle. Lin Yan was one of them. In the past, Jian Wushuang had defeated him easily with just a branch. He had even done so against Lin Yi. Now, using a finger as a sword against the insignificant Zhuge Hong wouldn't be a challenge. Brat, since you want to die, I'll grant your wish. Intense bloodlust rose from Zhuge Hong. Just come at me with all you got. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was still maintaining a gentle smile. He even taunted Zhuge Hong by wiggling his index finger intentionally. Zhuge Hong darted forward instantly. Intense divine power surged from all parts of his body as he morphed into a bolt of lightning. The bolt of lightning shot out abruptly and left afterimages on the drill ground. How quick! This speed is insane. Several Lin Mansion disciples couldn't help but exclaim. That ferocious bolt of lightning reached Jian Wushuang in no time, and Zhuge Hong slashed down his faint purple saber towards Jian Wushuang. The saber glow was eerie and about to split Jian Wushuang into two. Just before the saber glow was about to connect, Jian Wushuang took a step out. At the same time, he lowered his stance slightly and swung up his finger in momentum. A simple swing carried with it immense secrets which no one on the field could decipher. However, they could see Jian Wushuang was intending to use his index finger to clash with Zhuge Hong's saber. How bold! Watch how I sever your hand off. Zhuge Hong berated and increased his strength in his saber skills. The next moment, Jian Wushuang's right index finger clashed with that eerily cold saber glow. The surrounding crowd was staring deadly. Most of them believed Jian Wushuang's finger would be sliced off by that eerie saber in the clash. However, dang, they heard sounds of metal clashing instead. Zhuge Hong was astonished and felt a barbaric and powerful strength exerted on him. The next moment, something unbelievable happened before everyone. That eerie faint purple saber cracked upon contact with Jian Wushuang's right index finger and eventually broke into two. How is this possible? Zhuge Hong stared in disbelief. Although his saber wasn't some frightening divine weapon, it was a true terrestrial treasure with high value. Its toughness was easy to imagine. Using all his strength, he clashed with Jian Wushuang's index finger directly. In the end, Jian Wushuang's index remained unscathed, but his saber had cracked and broken? What kind of joke was this? Just as Zhuge Hong was still reeling in shock, Jian Wushuang swung his finger once again. This swing triggered some unique energies in the space and easily break through Zhuge Hong's defense. The next instant, Jian Wushuang's index finger was on Zhuge Hong's chest. Immense divine power shot out and pierced Zhuge Hong's chest, leaving a bloodied wound. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang didn't go for the kill. Otherwise, this strike would definitely have extinguished Zhuge Hong's life completely. Zhuge Hong spat out blood and flew back like a kite that was not held back by a string. The gray-robed old men, who had been behind him all along, dashed ahead and caught Zhuge Hong. "You have lost." Jian Wushuang stood on the drill ground and said nonchalantly. Silence shrouded the drill ground. Death-like silence. After some time, the crowd in the drill ground finally reacted to it. "Won. We won. Isn't Zhuge Hong supposed to be incredible? How did he get defeated so easily then?" Using a finger as a weapon, Zhuge Hong's terrestrial treasure weapon was crushed in a single tap. In the next tap, Zhuge Hong was severely injured. This? Strong. Too strong. Terrifyingly strong. The shocked gazes of the crowd gathered on Jian Wushuang. Even those experts of Lin Mansion were incomparably astounded. Some of them knew Jian Wushuang had an extremely high understanding of sword principle and might be able to defeat Zhuge Hong. However, they had never expected Jian Wushuang would crush Zhuge Hong so utterly. Even Lin Yan was dumbfounded. Previously, he was still reminding Jian Wushuang to be careful. Now that was just a hilarious act. Although Zhuge Hong was powerful, he was nothing before Jian Wushuang. As compared to the astonishment and joy of Lin Mansion, Zhuge Hong, who was defeated by Jian Wushuang, was dazed. His eyes were empty and couldn't believe what had happened. Indeed, he had never expected Jian Wushuang to defeat him before the battle, let alone crushing him so utterly. He was a true talent that even the Dongzhou sect had high regard for. This made him extremely prideful, and he had always looked down on some cultivators of his age. But today, the pride in him was ruthlessly trampled by Jian Wushuang. Just like what Jian Wushuang had said to Lin Yan, he was going to crush Zhuge Hong's confidence and make him doubt himself forever. And now, Jian Wushuang probably succeeded. Before the watchful eyes of the crowd, the prideful and arrogant Zhuge Hong was crushed by Jian Wushuang. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was using his finger as a sword and broke his weapon with a single tap. This made him realize the humongous gap between them that could never be bridged. More importantly, Jian Wushuang was younger than him, much younger. This made it harder for him to accept. A blow like this was undoubtedly huge for Zhuge Hong. With this blow, Zhuge Hong's future would likely be affected unless he could find back his confidence within a short period and stood back up. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang might even become the heart demon that he could never shake off in this lifetime. That young master of the Zhuge family had probably snapped when he couldn't accept the fact he had lost to me so completely. For his good, it would be best if you bring him back as soon as possible. Jian Wushuang looked at the gray-robed old man and said with a faint smile. The gray-robed old man gloomed upon hearing. However, seeing the empty eyes of Zhuge Hong, he knew this attempt to sound out Lin Mansion couldn't continue. The most pressing thing to do was to send Zhuge Hong back and help him regain his consciousness. Without hesitation, the gray-robed old man carried Zhuge Hong and left. Before he left, he even looked daggers at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang felt helpless over this. He knew he would definitely be dragged into the conflict between the Zhuge family and Lin family after he stepped in this time. In fact, that gray-robed old man and Zhuge Hong might even pay more attention to him. However, he didn't mind. After all, his father, Zhuge Yunfeng, had a close relationship with the Lin family. There was no way he would stay out of this. Different situations call for different actions. I have even faced 3 masters of Holy Land. An insignificant Zhuge family is nothing compared to a master of Holy Land. Jian Wushuang chuckled. When the gray-robed man left with Zhuge Hong, everyone in the Lin mansion crowded over. Brother Wushuang, that's amazing! Lin Yan was overjoyed. Brother Wushuang, I'm impressed. Really impressed. You really live up to your name. Today's a good eye-opener for all of us. Zhuge Hong could be considered an elite class talent in the entire Anzhou prefecture or even the Wuxia Baron region. Yet, the difference between him and you is larger than one would expect. Many experts from Lin Mansion joined in praising, expressing gratitude or even paying respect to Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang was just 16 years old, the strength he displayed in the battle against Zhuge Hong was something that no one in the field would overlook. Moreover, his potential was even greater. Everyone, you guys are too courteous. Jian Wushuang also responded with a smile. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several figures landing on the drill ground. They were none other than Lin Taifeng and the 4 half-step divine demons who had remained hidden and watched over the entire series of events. When they saw Lin Taifeng, the experts and disciples of Lin Mansion shut their mouths instantly. Nephew Wushuang. Lin Taifeng walked to Jian Wushuang and said, We have troubled you this time. If it wasn't for you, the Lin Mansion would be utterly embarrassed. It was just a simple act, replied Jian Wushuang. Haha, your simple act did help my Lin Mansion greatly. If I'm not wrong, the Zhuge family was probably trying to sound out the strength of our Lin Mansion today. Or rather, they are trying to find out the extent of my recovery. If you did not defeat Zhuge Hong and let him press the issue, I would most likely be forced to step in. Jian Wushuang kept his smile. He knew Lin Taifeng would be able to see the true intentions of Zhuge family since he could be the family head. Oh right, Wushuang. I saw you broke Zhuge Hong's weapon with just your finger. Zhuge Hong's weapon was most likely a terrestrial treasure. Yet you are able to break it. Considering that both of you are at similar cultivation bases, I guess your understanding of sword principle has probably reached the level of great achievement. Lin Taifeng turned to Jian Wushuang abruptly and asked, Great achievement in sword principle? Several Lin Mansion experts who specialized in sword principle had now turned to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only responded with a casual smile and didn't answer directly. However, his smile could be seen as a wordless sign of consent. Just as I expected. Seeing Jian Wushuang did not mention otherwise, and Lin Taifeng was astounded. He was able to tell from the battle previously. In the absolute beginning divine world, the classifications of one's cultivation base, weapons, elixirs, and various aspects were different from those in the eternal chaotic world. In the eternal chaotic world, the most powerful weapon was just Chaos Divine Treasure. However, Chaos Divine Treasure was just a blurry concept. Many experts that stood at the top of the eternal chaotic world owned Chaos Divine Treasures. Yet, their might differed greatly. Together with the immense restrictions of heaven and earth, even those great emperors that stood at the pinnacle would find it hard to maximize the real strength of some Chaos Divine Treasures. It was also because of that the classification of Chaos Divine Treasures was blurry. However, the classification of weapons in Absolute Beginning Divine World was much clearer and defined. There were ordinary weapons, terrestrial treasures, heavenly treasures, divine treasures, and others. Terrestrial treasures were already hard to come by. Even chaotic divine demons would be extremely interested in them. However, Jian Wushuang was able to forcefully destroy a terrestrial treasure class saber with just the strength of his finger. This would only be possible if he possessed an extremely frightening sword essence. That sword essence was something that couldn't be found in those with only initial success in sword principle. It was because of that Lin Taifeng believed Jian Wushuang had likely achieved great achievement. And for great achievement in sword principle, Not a single person in Anzhou Prefecture had reached this level. This lad's talents in sword principle are truly astonishing. Lin Taifeng thought to himself. Uncle Lin. Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Taifeng and said, I have been troubling you and the Lin family for more than 3 years. It's about time, and I should be returning to Incineration Moon City. You are going back? Lin Taifeng furrowed his brows. The surrounding crowd, including Lin Yan, Lin Yi, and many experts, were also shocked. If it was possible, they would of course want Jian Wushuang to remain in the Lin mansion. With an expert that had achieved great achievement in sword principle to guide cultivators that specialized in sword principle, it would be even better than having a chaotic divine demon guiding them. However, they also knew Jian Wushuang wasn't from the Lin mansion after all. He was just a guest that resided in the Lin mansion temporarily. Now that Jian Wushuang wished to return to the Incineration Moon City, they naturally wouldn't have any reason to stop him. I've been away from home for too long and I should be heading back, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. All right. Lin Taifeng didn't plan to get him to stay. In that case, it's already late today. I'll get Lin Yi to send you back personally the next morning. Thank you, Uncle Lin Yi. Jian Wushuang turned to Lin Yi. You are being too courteous, Lin Yi responded warmly. Soon, Jian Wushuang returned to his room and started packing. Although Lin Mansion was in chaos when Zhuge Hong arrived, peace returned after Zhuge Hong left. Soon, the night fell. In a luxurious restaurant of a city that was a short distance away from Lin Mansion, an old man in a gray robe was standing in the room with his hands behind his back. Your Honor, this is the information from the Lin Mansion. A man in a silver robe entered the room and handed the gray-robed old man a jade bamboo strip. The gray-robed old man took a quick glance at it as his murky eyes suddenly lit up. It's him, the gray-robed old man mumbled to himself before waving his hand. You may take your leave first. The man in the silver robe bowed and left the room. The gray-robed old man brought the jade bamboo slip to the inner room of the restaurant. Zhuge Hong, who had been defeated by Jian Wushuang in the Lin Mansion previously, was sitting in the room. This is the information we got from Lin Mansion. You can take a look. The gray-robed old man handed the jade bamboo strip to Zhuge Hong. Although he was a chaotic divine demon and definitely an elite expert or overlord class existence in Anzhou Prefecture, he was still rather humble before Zhuge Hong without any pretension. He wasn't from the Zhuge family and obviously wasn't a senior family member to Zhuge Hong. However, he was from Dongzhou sect and had been arranged by Zhuge Hong's master to be here. His objective was to make things easier for Zhuge Hong. By this point, Zhuge Hong had recovered his vitality. However, he still looked a little defeated and down. Clearly, the battle had been an overly huge blow to him. His pride and confidence had been ruthlessly trampled, and it would have been difficult for him to recover immediately. Nonetheless, he still took the jade bamboo strip and glanced at it. After a quick look through the contents of the jade bamboo strip, the demoralized and defeated Zhuge Hong jumped up abruptly. It's him! It's him! No wonder he could defeat me so easily. So he's that Jian Wushuang. Zhuge Hong clenched his fist tightly and his body shivered with anger. The contents on the jade bamboo strip were undoubtedly the identity and origins of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's identity wasn't a secret in Lin Mansion. The Zhuge family and Lin family had been competing for many years. It was only natural they had some spies in the Lin Mansion. All they needed was to mobilize them a little to find out. Zhuge Hong also understood Jian Wushuang wasn't just some sword boy of Lin Mansion but the famous unparalleled talent in sword principle in Anzhou Prefecture. Zhuge Hong finally felt enlightened. At the same time, the defeated looks had vanished completely. For him, if he lost so utterly to an ordinary sword boy, the blow would undoubtedly be huge. In fact, he might not ever recover from the mental devastation. However, if he was defeated by an exceptional talent, there would be nothing to feel down about. Jian Wushuang was undoubtedly an exceptional talent. When I first came to Anzhou Prefecture, I heard about Jian Wushuang as well. All along, I wasn't concerned about it and thought that the others were just exaggerating things. Now, it would appear that he is indeed extraordinary to be able to break your terrestrial treasure saber with his finger when both of you are at the same cultivation base. His understanding of sword principle might have reached the level of great achievement. In Anzhou Prefecture, it is unlikely that there will be anyone who is a match in this aspect. Even the previous family head of Zhuge family, Zhuge Yun, wouldn't be, said the gray-robed old man. That is to be expected. Jian Wushuang had his name given personally by Taoist priest Xianxia, answered Zhuge Hong. Taoist priest Xianxia? The gray-robed old man was baffled. Elder Chun, you have always been in Dongzhou sect and just arrived in Anzhou Prefecture. It's expected that you aren't aware of Taoist priest Xianxia. However, he was extremely famous in Anzhou Prefecture in recent years. He's a mysterious expert with unimaginable abilities. Although I have not seen him, I have heard about him. My father and many experts in the Zhuge family have the utmost respect for Taoist priest Xianxia. In fact, even the strongest man in Anzhou Prefecture, the commandery governor, is reverent and respectful before him. In fact, some even said the commandery governor wishes to follow Taoist priest Xianxia, even if it was to be a servant. It is just that Taoist priest Xianxia has rejected him, said Zhuge Hong. Oh? The gray-robed old man was astounded upon hearing Zhuge Hong. He knew about the commandery governor of Anzhou Prefecture, and he was rather well known in the Wuxia Baron region. That was an elite divine demon and much stronger than him. In Dongzhou sect, those who could possibly match up to him could be counted with a single hand. An elite divine demon like him would willingly be a servant to Taoist priest Xianxia? From this, it was easy to tell how amazing the Taoist priest Xianxia was. Taoist priest Xianxia is a man of great capabilities and might be an elite in the absolute beginning divine world. And yet he visited Jian Wushuang's family and gave Jian Wushuang his name personally. There's no way Jian Wushuang would be a pushover. There's nothing to feel bad about in losing to him, remarked Zhuge Hong. It's great that you are able to get over it. Elder Chun finally heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, he had been worried that Zhuge Hong would never get back up on his feet. If that was the case, he wouldn't be able to explain it to Zhuge Hong's master when they returned to Dongzhou sect. Now, this wouldn't be necessary. Get over it? Zhuge Hong snorted. I have to admit my talents aren't as great as his. However, this doesn't mean I will let him trample over me. He humiliated me before the watchful eyes of the crowd and foiled our Zhuge family's plan. There's no way I will let him off easily. Moreover, his father is the governor of Incineration Moon City. From what I know, Zhui Yunfeng and the family head of Lin Mansion, Lin Taifeng, are brothers of life and death. They are extremely close. Once our Zhuge family start a war with the Lin family, Zhui Yunfeng will definitely extend the greatest help he can. As for Jian Wushuang, he will definitely become an enemy to our Zhuge family. An enemy who is widely deemed to be unparalleled in sword principle, and has exceptional talents should be removed as soon as possible. Elder Chun nodded his head and agreed. From what he had displayed earlier in the day, Jian Wushuang's potential was unquestionable. Even a talent like Zhuge Hong was several levels below him. For a super talent like him, it would be best to form good relationships with him. However, if he was on the opposing side, it would be best to eliminate him before he fully grew up. Didn't our intel say that Jian Wushuang would be leaving Lin Mansion for Incineration Moon City tomorrow? That would be the opportunity, said Zhuge Hong. Could it be you are thinking of intercepting and killing him on his way back to Incineration Moon City? Elder Chen looked over. Can't we do that? That's plausible. However, I couldn't do it personally. Now that we have stirred up a storm in Lin Mansion, the Lin family will definitely be able to tell. Moreover, despite the fact that we have left Lin Mansion, we are still in the vicinity. The Lin Mansion has definitely dispatched experts to watch us in the dark. All our actions will likely be seen by their eyes. Therefore, if we want to make a move, we can only arrange for other experts to do it, Elder Chun analyzed. This won't be an issue. Zhuge family still has some experts that we can mobilize within our territory. I will send my family head a message now to dispatch a batch of experts immediately. After all, there will only be a peak chaotic realm escorting Jian Wushuang back to Incineration Moon City. It would still be easy to kill him with just this level of protection. Soon, Zhuge Hong sent a message to the family head of Zhuge family. When the family head of Zhuge family received the message, he could sense the immense potential of Jian Wushuang as well. Similar to Zhuge Hong, he would want to eliminate this threat as soon as possible. Therefore, he started preparing immediately. The next morning, Jian Wushuang was ready to move on from the Lin mansion. "Brother Wushuang, I'll go look for you in Incineration Moon City soon," Lin Yan said. "Haha, that's not necessary. Most likely, I'll be in Lin Mansion before you know it," Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. He was speaking the truth. Since he had deciphered almost all the secret skills and secret manuals in Lin Mansion, there was nothing left that he would miss about this place. However, Lin family would have a battle with the Zhuge family soon. His father would definitely extend a helping hand then. It would be obvious that Jian Wushuang would follow along. "Great. I wish you a pleasant journey," Lin Yan remarked. After waving goodbye, Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi headed towards Incineration Moon City under the eyes of numerous Lin Mansion's experts. With Heaven's will in control, the space of absolute beginning divine world was a lot more stable than the eternal chaotic world. When he was in eternal chaotic world, releasing all his powers without restraints would easily destroy an area and space of 100,000 to 1,000,000 miles. In the absolute beginning divine world, unless you were a supreme expert that stood above it all, it wouldn't be that simple to destroy the world. Obviously, with the space being so stable, it would be harder to open up a wormhole. As such, many places in absolute beginning divine world didn't have a wormhole. For example, Anzhou Prefecture. Only a few ancient sects within the Wuxia Barren region might have some wormholes. Therefore, cultivators in absolute beginning divine world would often have to travel on their own or rely on some flying-assisted treasures like flying ships. From Lin Mansion to Incineration Moon City, it wasn't too far. Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi were running throughout. With their speed, it would probably take 10 days for them to reach Incineration Moon City. On the journey, "Uncle Lin Yi, how long have you been out of closed-door practice?" Jian Wushuang asked casually. "It has been 3 months since my cultivation base stabilized," answered Lin Yi with a smile. 3 years ago, Lin Yi was struck with inspiration after seeing Jian Wushuang demonstrating the snow cleave. Immediately after, he had gone into seclusion until 3 months ago. He had made a breakthrough in sword principle and would be classified as reaching the minimum threshold. "Congratulations. If I'm correct, you now probably have the fighting strength equivalent to a half-step divine demon, right?" asked Jian Wushuang. "Not exactly. A half-step divine demon isn't just about one's understanding of weapons. It also requires more concentrated divine power. More importantly, I will have to grasp some rules of order. It isn't that easy to grasp some rules of order." Lin Yi sighed emotionally. However, Jian Wushuang didn't feel the same way. With Heaven's will controlling the absolute beginning divine world, the rules of heaven and earth were extremely dense and couldn't be compared with the eternal chaotic world. In the eternal chaotic world, grasping some rules or order would be truly difficult. It would still be relatively easy to do so in the absolute beginning divine world. Nonetheless, it wasn't an easy task either. "My little friend, Wushuang, I have you to thank for this breakthrough. If it wasn't for your guidance previously, I wonder how much longer I would have taken to reach the minimum threshold of sword principle." Lin Yi was sincerely grateful and behaved extremely humbly before Jian Wushuang. He was from the same generation as Jian Wushuang's father and had an extremely good relationship with him. Interactions with Jian Wushuang's father were like those of equals. However, when he was before Jian Wushuang, he was more like a junior. The main reason why you can reach the minimum threshold for sword principle is because of your hard work and ability to grasp concepts. However, don't get too overjoyed just yet. The threshold of sword principle is only the beginning to the path of swords. The sword principle is deep and profound. The road ahead is still long. I can understand. However, I don't have that ambition. My only goal would be to be like you, reaching great achievement in sword principle. That would be sufficient for me. However, I wonder how long it will take with my talents to reach that level. Perhaps I might not reach it in this lifetime." Lin Yi sighed. He wasn't a demon-like talent at sword principle like Jian Wushuang. Reaching great achievement in sword principle would be an extremely high level for him. As for Jian Wushuang, he had attained that level at just the age of 16. As long as you are willing to work hard, you will reach it, answered Jian Wushuang. Both of them were chatting along the journey, just when they were crossing a mountain range. Wang! Jian Wushuang stopped abruptly and squinted his eyes. What's the matter, pal? Lin Yi looked over, feeling baffled. Uncle Lin Yi, it seems like it won't be easy for us to reach Incineration Moon City safely, said Jian Wushuang. What do you mean? Lin Yi furrowed his brows. We are being targeted. Upon hearing this, Lin Yi was astounded. He upped his vigilance immediately and spread his soul power out without reserve. Just as expected, at the deepest point of the mountain range, there were several extremely faint auras. Noticing that they had been discovered, the owners of these auras didn't attempt to hide further. Whoosh! 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 5 figures shot up into the sky and appeared before Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi. Among the 5, 3 were men while the rest were women. All of them had varying levels of aura. Jian Wushuang was able to tell the strength of these 5 people by just extending his soul power through them. Among the 5, 4 were chaotic realm, of which 2 were middle-stage chaotic realm and the other 2 were early-stage chaotic realm. There weren't any at the chaotic realm. Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi weren't concerned about these 4 at all. However, the red-haired old lady with a dragon head truncheon had an especially strong aura. This aura was the level of a half-step divine demon. Because of her, Lin Yi looked extremely gloomy. Who are you guys? Why did you block us off? Lin Yi asked loudly. Uncle Lin Yi, that's not necessary. All 5 of them must be from the Zhuge family, said Jian Wushuang. Zhuge family? Lin Yi turned solemn. When I defeated Zhuge Hong yesterday, I expected the Zhuge family to come looking for me. I just didn't expect them to act so quickly, Jian Wushuang mumbled. Hee. Lad, you are pretty smart. However, you got something wrong. We aren't from the Zhuge family. We are just helping them, the red-haired old lady answered. This was the territory controlled by the Lin family, after all. Although the Zhuge family had lots of experts within their territories, it was still a little hard to mobilize experts that could definitely kill Lin Yi and Jian Wushuang. Therefore, the Zhuge family had paid a price to hire the red-haired old lady. So that's how it is. I know all half-step divine demons of the Zhuge family and yet didn't recognize you. So you aren't from the Zhuge family? Lin Yi said coldly. You should know who we are. If you work for Zhuge family today, you will offend Lin family completely. Our Lin family will definitely hunt you down, and there won't be a place for you in Anzhou Prefecture anymore. Why don't you guys stop here and be friendly with our Lin family? Lin family knew the threat of the 5 people before him. Therefore, while sending a message to Lin Mansion requesting reinforcements secretly, he was trying to convince the red-haired old lady to stop. Even if he couldn't convince her, he wanted to buy as much time as possible. Stop here? Wishful thinking. I have taken benefits from the Zhuge family and am here at their request. It's only natural that I keep my word. As for how your Lin family will want to pursue us in the future, we aren't from the Anzhou Prefecture to begin with. After this, we will leave Anzhou Prefecture for good. Your threats do not mean anything to us at all. Therefore, you two can just sit tight and wait for your deaths obediently. Her cold voice reverberated in the air. Just as she finished her words, the red-haired old lady pointed the dragon head truncheon towards Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi. Despite being at a distance, a dense stream of devilish aura gushed out from the dragon head truncheon. The devilish aura filled the atmosphere and morphed into a giant demonic dragon in the blink of an eye. The demonic dragon was entirely black and emanated a frightening aura. It let out a deafening roar before rushing towards Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi. Before the demonic dragon approached, a stifling pressure swept across Jian Wushuang and Lin Yi. Jian Wushuang was unmoved. He had seen too many half-step divine demons in his previous lifetime. Now that he was facing one again, he was still as calm as ever despite not recovering fully. However, Lin Yi wasn't able to be as composed as Jian Wushuang. Damn it! Lin Yi cursed. Before the demon reached him, he drew the sword from his back. Powerful sword essence erupted into the sky. Since he had reached the minimum threshold of sword principle, Lin Yi's sword essence was clearly way stronger than before. Lin Yi took a big step forward and swung his sword decisively, just like a streak of sword light that was about to split the heavens. The strike was blurry but had unwavering dominance. In the next instant, he struck the head of the giant demonic dragon. Demonic mist tumbled around the demonic dragon. Despite having a powerful aura, it was split into two by the sword light and dissipated into the atmosphere. Huh? The red-haired old lady with the dragon head truncheon was astonished and turned to the other four chaotic realms. Didn't your Zhuge family say the one escorting the lad was an ordinary peak chaotic realm? Yet, he sliced my demonic dragon in a single strike. His strength is probably not any weaker than a half-step divine demon's. The four chaotic realm experts couldn't answer at that moment. From the intelligence gathered by the Zhuge family, Lin Yi was indeed an ordinary peak chaotic realm. Although his sword principle was pretty good, it wasn't too extraordinary. However, just like the red-haired old lady had said, he was really strong. It looks like our Zhuge family's intelligence was erroneous. Although Lin Yi was much stronger than we expected, he shouldn't be beyond the range your honor could handle, right? One of them asked. Yeah, I can still handle him, but the difficulty is a lot higher. The promised remuneration has to increase by 30%, said the red-haired old lady. 30%? The four chaotic realm experts turned solemn. However, after communicating with their consciousness, they nodded their heads in unison. As long as your honor is willing to stick to your end of the deal, 30% should be acceptable. All right, leave Lin Yi to me. However, you guys will have to finish off Jian Wushuang personally, the red-haired old lady said. Not a problem. The four chaotic realm experts agreed decisively. They only found Lin Yi to be a slight issue. As for Jian Wushuang, a mere pure sun realm wasn't something that would bother them. Once they had reached an agreement, the red-haired old lady made the first move. You are Lin Yi? To be able to slice my demonic dragon in a single strike, you are pretty strong. However, even if you can slice one, can you deal with 5? The red-haired old lady stared at Lin Yi. Divine power surged from her and an intense devilish aura gathered. Soon, 5 demonic dragons had formed. Shit! Lin Yi was flabbergasted. His all-out strike could destroy a demonic dragon. However, he had to deal with 5 at the same time now. Lin Yi was plunged into exceptional danger instantly. Pal, run away now! Lin Yi shouted. Sword essence surged as he charged towards the 5 demonic dragons. Powerful sword light flickered as Lin Yi tackled the 5 demonic dragons. However, it was clear that Lin Yi was in an absolutely disadvantageous position. He would be able to barely keep himself alive and couldn't possibly care for Jian Wushuang at this juncture. He only hoped Jian Wushuang would be fortunate to escape from this. What he had never expected was that Jian Wushuang wouldn't attempt to flee at all. When he heard Lin Yi shouted, Jian Wushuang remained rooted to the ground. Whoosh! 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 The 4 chaotic realm experts from the Zhuge family had already surrounded him. Seeing that Jian Wushuang remained unmoved, they scoffed. Hee, brat, are you so afraid that you have become dumb? Lin Yi ordered you to flee immediately, and yet you choose to remain behind. Although you have frightening talents, you are still too young and haven't been through many ordeals. In a life and death situation, you have become paralyzed in fear. It's good that way. You will have a quicker death and won't suffer as much. The 4 chaotic realm experts chatted casually and weren't concerned by Jian Wushuang at all. However, what they didn't notice was when they were mocking Jian Wushuang, contempt was gleaming in Jian Wushuang's eyes. That half-step divine demon expert is held up by Uncle Lin Yi. There isn't even a peak chaotic realm among the 4 of them. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He wasn't silly and he wasn't paralyzed in fear. In his previous lifetime, he had been through numerous setbacks. In the most pressing danger, he could still remain calm while searching for a glimmer of hope. His current encounter wouldn't even have been considered a small wave. The reason why he didn't heed Lin Yi's advice to flee at the first instance was because, Only 4 chaotic realms weren't qualified to make him flee. In the air, Jian Wushuang stood peacefully. He flipped his palm and a red sword appeared in his hand. The sword was 4 feet long and didn't have a sheath. The red body made it look as though it was submerged in fresh blood. When it appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand, it instantly attracted the attention of the 4 chaotic realms. This is... They stared at the sword. At first glance, the long sword looked ordinary. However, it seemed to have been to hell and back. Corpses were scattered everywhere and the sea of blood was vast and boundless. Great sword! That's definitely a terrestrial treasure. Moreover, it's a peak terrestrial treasure or even a heavenly treasure. Without a doubt, this was a stunning killing sword. This sword was none other than the Blood Mountain Sword, the sword that had descended from the sky when Jian Wushuang was born. Old pal, it's been a long time since I last fought with you. Jian Wushuang ran his fingers through the body of the Blood Mountain Sword while feeling the icy cold sensation from it. The Blood Mountain Sword was the closest comrade Jian Wushuang had ever had. Although it had only been 16 years since he had held the Blood Mountain Sword and gone on a killing spree, it felt like a lifetime. The difference of a lifetime was undoubtedly long. Now that Jian Wushuang had taken out his Blood Mountain Sword again, it symbolized that the infamous Sword Emperor of the previous lifetime was about to use his Reaper Sword once again. As for the Blood Mountain Sword, it could also pick up the killing intent from Jian Wushuang that it had been missing for a long time. The body of the sword started trembling violently. TSK. Although this kid is still young, he has a pretty good sword. I heard when this kid was born, a divine sword descended with him. It was also because of that the name he was given suggested he would be unparalleled in swords. That divine sword that descended with him is probably the one he is holding on to currently. Such an incredible sword in the hands of a pure Sun Realm kid would be such a waste. It's better for it to be with us to show its true might. To prevent unexpected events from happening, let's kill him right now. Kill! After a short conversation, all 4 of them struck at the same time. Logically speaking, they were all at the chaotic realm while Jian Wushuang was just at the pure Sun realm. Any one of them could have easily killed Jian Wushuang. Yet, they had chosen to strike at the first instant together. This was because they wouldn't want to give Jian Wushuang even the slightest opportunity. Moreover, they coordinated well. One of them was using a saber and was like the embodiment of the god of thunder as he charged towards Jian Wushuang with flickering lightning surrounding him. Another one used a black spear. Through the emptiness of space, he silently lunged towards Jian Wushuang's head. A girl was using a red long whip that moved like a giant python and was circling around Jian Wushuang swiftly. The most stunning of them all was a burly bald man. As he pushed out his palm, a giant hand formed that shrouded the space before Jian Wushuang. They had completely cut off any path of escape for Jian Wushuang. The next instant, the saber sliced open Jian Wushuang's body. That black spear penetrated Jian Wushuang's skull. That long red whip crushed Jian Wushuang's body. And the final large palm from the burly bald man destroyed everything that Jian Wushuang had been using initially. Everything was so smooth and fluid. However, the 4 chaotic realm experts that struck felt something wasn't right. This was because all of them could feel their attacks weren't connecting with a material body. Whoosh! Unknowingly, Jian Wushuang had appeared in the middle of the quartet. In the same space, Jian Wushuang utilized space-time rules of order and arrived in the middle of the quartet silently. The next moment, Jian Wushuang struck with his Blood Mountain Sword. Wang! As the sword moved through, ripples reverberated through the surrounding space, as though something heavy was being thrown into a calm lake. The swing from Jian Wushuang was like a heavy object while the surrounding space was like a peaceful lake. A sword glow lit up the space and intoxicated the rest. It was just a small ray of sword light and yet the entire space was shrouded in it. For a moment, time and space seemed to have stopped. It was as though the 4 figures were frozen solid and not moving an inch. Jian Wushuang put away his sword slowly and walked through the quartet without taking a look back. At this very moment, the frozen quartet was filled with fear. It wasn't that they didn't want to move. They couldn't have even if they wished to. Moreover, they could feel a sharp pain in their necks. From there, blood started flowing out. A thin, minuscule sword mark had been left on their necks. However, this sword mark had neatly sliced through their necks. The quartet could clearly feel their vitality slipping rapidly from their bodies. Before death, they were filled with astonishment and disbelief. When Jian Wushuang walked out of the middle of the quarter, 4 heads flew off. In a single strike, the 4 chaotic realm experts from the Zhuge family had been killed. At the other end, Jian Wushuang could hear angry roars from time to time. Those were from the 5 demonic dragons. The 5 demonic dragons were extremely powerful, and just one of them was sufficient to suppress a peak chaotic realm. When the 5 of them coordinated, even half-step divine demon would have to go all out against them. Lin Yi's fighting strength was just barely comparable to a half-step divine demon's. After an intense battle, he had crushed one of the demonic dragons relying on his sword principle. However, he had also suffered some injuries while battling the demonic dragons. As for the red-haired old lady with the dragon head truncheon, she stood in the air. When Lin Yi was battling the demonic dragons, she would search for opportunities to attack. Lin Yi's injuries had been caused by her directly. Although both of them were in battle, they were also paying attention to the situation at the other end. Lin Yi was initially flabbergasted when he saw Jian Wushuang not heeding his warning to leave at the first instant. There was nothing he could have done. Subsequently, Lin Yi felt despair when he saw the Chaotic Realm Quartet strike decisively towards Jian Wushuang with their killer moves. He had not thought Jian Wushuang would have any chance of survival under the besiegement of the Chaotic Realm Quartet. Just as the thought went through his mind, the tiny and intoxicating sword light illuminated the space. That strike, Lin Yi was completely mesmerized by Jian Wushuang's strike. He could tell from a single glance that the strike was the snow cleave that Jian Wushuang had created 3 years ago. He had only gained enlightenment and made a breakthrough in his sword principle after seeing it go into cultivation in seclusion for 3 years. This strike was definitely the most amazing and mysterious that Lin Yi had ever seen. It wasn't just him. Even that red-haired old lady was mesmerized by that strike. The next instant, something unbelievable happened before the red-haired old lady and Lin Yi. After that single strike, the Chaotic Realm Quartet from Zhuge family couldn't put up a struggle at all and had their heads severed directly. Impossible! A strange light glittered in the eyes of the red-haired old lady as she stared deadly at Jian Wushuang. How could this have happened? Lin Yi was stupefied. He would admit Jian Wushuang's sword principle was exceptionally amazing and no one in Anzhou Prefecture was a match for him. However, regardless of how incredible his sword principle was, he was merely a pure sun realm. A pure sun realm had killed 4 chaotic realms in a single strike? Was this possible? Who would believe it if someone told others? However, that had really happened before his eyes. Moreover, the chaotic realm quarter wasn't just at the early stage chaotic realm. 2 of them were at the middle stage chaotic realm. As for Jian Wushuang, he was just at the middle stage pure sun realm and not even the peak pure sun realm. The difference in realms was so huge and yet he could swiftly kill them? Lin Yi and that red-haired old lady couldn't believe their eyes. However, Jian Wushuang was able to do it so easily and casually. After he killed the Chaotic Realm Quartet, he was still casual and composed. For him, killing 4 chaotic realms was indeed nothing. When he was in the eternal chaotic world and before he had completed his perfect chaotic life form, he had been able to rely on the uniqueness of being an inverse cultivator to challenge and even kill chaotic realm as an eternal real god. And now that he had been reincarnated into a perfect chaotic life form, he was even more frightening than an inverse cultivator. Moreover, his understanding of the rules of order, sword principle, and many other aspects were way beyond the ordinary chaotic realm. As such, killing an ordinary chaotic realm was just like a walk in the park. Even if he were to face a true peak chaotic realm, he would stand a good chance. In the air, Lin Yi and the red-haired old lady had stopped. Both of their gazes were fixed on Jian Wushuang. Ha! Jian Wushuang, I finally understood why the Zhuge family would pay such a high price to kill you. At such a young age, your understanding of swords is already so deep. You are even able to easily kill chaotic realms when you are just a pure sun realm. If such a demon-like talent like you were given time to grow, the entire Anzhou prefecture or even the entire Wuxia Baron region would be trampled under your feet. In fact, you could even go beyond the Wuxia Baron region to a more glamorous region. For you, reaching Divine Demon was a given. As for going beyond Divine Demon and becoming an undying saint, you probably have a high chance as well. It is not surprising why the Zhuge family would feel uneasy about having such a talent standing against them. The red-haired old lady laughed coldly while staring fervently at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was indifferent and didn't take in a single word from the red-haired old lady. As for Lin Yi, he was awestruck. Previously, he had known that Jian Wushuang had extremely high talents and great potential. Now, he felt he had only seen the tip of the iceberg. The potential that Jian Wushuang had displayed was even greater than any talent he was aware of. Just like the red-haired old lady had said, becoming a divine demon was a given for Jian Wushuang. He also had a high chance of becoming a superpower existence of undying saint, the level beyond divine demon. Looking across boundless absolute beginning divine worlds, an undying saint would be considered a top-notch expert. Jian Wushuang, I'm here this time because of Zhuge family's invitation to kill you. However, after seeing your talents, I have changed my mind. The red-haired old lady stared at Jian Wushuang and said, Truth be told, my name is Yen Ke and I'm from the Water Fairy Island. Water Fairy Island? Lin Yi was astonished. Jian Wushuang also lifted his head to glance at the red-haired old lady. Jian Wushuang knew about the Water Fairy Island. Although large families were the most common in the Wuxia Baron region, ancient sects were numerous as well. Moreover, these sects were extremely powerful and controlled large areas in the Wuxia Baron region. Misty Rain Sword Pavilion, which Shui Yunfeng wanted Jian Wushuang to join, and Dongzhou sect, which Zhuge Hong was in, were both rather strong sects. However, they were miles apart from Water Fairy Island. Water Fairy Island was definitely one of the most elite sects in the Wuxia Baron region. In fact, they would be ranked in the top 10 among the numerous sects of Wuxia Baron region. It was said that there was more than 200 chaotic divine demon in Water Fairy Island. As for experts beyond that level, they were more than a few of them as well. A powerful sect like this was definitely feared by various families in the Wuxia Baron region. I have heard of Water Fairy Island, but what does it have to do with me? Jian Wushuang's eyes were still as cold as ever. Hee. I told you about my background because I wouldn't want such an absolute talent to be killed here. Therefore, I would like to give you an opportunity. If you are willing, follow me back to Water Fairy Island and I'll personally refer you. With your talents and potential together with my referral, it will be more than sufficient to get you a slot as a core disciple of Water Fairy Island. If you are lucky, our island master, or even those elders that are above the chaotic divine demon level might want to take you as their disciples, said Yen Quebec. She had indeed come to kill Jian Wushuang. She had also taken the benefits from the Zhuge family. However, the potential that Jian Wushuang had displayed had aroused her interests. It wasn't that she was appreciative of talents, but because she knew clearly if she could refer a talent like Jian Wushuang into Water Fairy Island, the experts in Water Fairy Island would definitely reward her handsomely. These rewards would be way more than what Zhuge family had promised her. You wanted to kill me moments ago, and now you want me to join the Water Fairy Island? Heh, you definitely changed quickly. However, the meager Water Fairy Island isn't qualified for me to join. Jian Wushuang was cold and didn't hesitate for a moment. Jian Wushuang, you have to think this through. Even if it wasn't for your future, you would have to consider your current predicament. Following me back to Water Fairy Island will be your only chance of survival. Otherwise, Yen Ke squinted her eyes. Otherwise? Truth be told, I'm really not interested in your Water Fairy Island. As for you, a meager half-step divine demon is nothing before me. I don't feel that my current situation is perilous. On the other hand, you should think about how you are going to get out, Jian Wushuang said coldly. The chaotic realm quartet from the Zhuge family has died. It will be your turn next. Arrogant. Yen Ke was infuriated. Jian Wushuang, you only killed some chaotic realm trash. Do you really think that's incredible? Forget it. I've allowed you to live and yet you reject me. Don't blame it on me. A stifling killing intent emanated from Yen Quebec. She was finally going to use her full strength.